Previously, Guan entered the Medicine Valley of the Taixuan Sect as an unremarkable servant disciple. While others dreamed of glory, powerful techniques, and advancement through the sect, Guan discovered that harvesting spiritual plants allowed him to seize their lifespan. By quietly tending the herb gardens, he began accumulating centuries of life while concealing his growing strength from everyone around him. But the peaceful valley soon revealed its hidden dangers. A terrifying demon infiltrated the sect, gifted disciples departed in pursuit of their own destinies, and Guan learned that even the lowest corner of the cultivation world could conceal deadly secrets. Now, as his cultivation continues to rise, new mysteries begin to surface within the Medicine Valley, and remaining unnoticed may become far more difficult than he imagined. Let us continue with Episode 2. After exchanging a few casual words with Xiaoshuan and Lu Jujia, Guan headed back toward his courtyard. He drew the Azure Hero's Travels from inside his robe, intending to read the latest volume properly. He had only just reached the courtyard when Yelan came out to meet him. "Senior brother, I want to learn the remnant wind kick too," Yelan said indignantly. Guan calmly closed the travelogue and asked with a smile, "What happened? Senior brother Meng refuses to teach you his spells?" Yelan grew even angrier. Feeling wronged, she said, "That's right. He taught me so carelessly that I got impatient and argued with him. Then he scolded me. He said he had to prepare for the outer sect examination, that he had no time to waste arguing with me, and told me to get lost." Seeing her cheeks puffed up like a pair of little balls, Guan found the sight amusing, but he forced himself not to laugh aloud. "Since senior brother Meng is so busy, don't disturb him for now. How about this? At noon tomorrow I'll personally teach you the remnant wind kick. Will that do?" Guan said gently. Yelan asked in surprise, "Why tomorrow?" "Your senior brother is tired. Show a little understanding. Those two senior brothers of yours were pestering me just now. You can ask them yourself." Guan pointed toward Xiaoshuan and Lu Jujia in the distance. With that, he slipped past Yelan and walked toward his room. Yelan noticed the book in his hand and wondered to herself, "Is the Azure Hero's Travels really that interesting?" Guan returned to his room, closed the door, lay down on the bed, and once again raised the Azure Hero's Travels before his eyes. He liked the series because a new volume appeared every 6 months. Following a serialized story in the cultivation world gave Guan the feeling that he had returned to Earth. He quickly immersed himself in the book. He seriously suspected that the series had been written by a cultivator from the Taixuan Sect. He had no idea what realm the author had reached, but for some reason, the book never described battles in detail. It was filled almost entirely with scenic journeys, romantic encounters, and affairs beneath the moon and flowers. Half a Xianxia later, Guan suddenly heard movement from the room next door. Meng Lang seemed to be rolling across the floor, his breathing in complete disarray. Huh? Has his cultivation deviated and driven him berserk? Guan was hesitating over whether to go and check when Meng Lang soon fell silent. The fellow had not cried out in pain even once. As the surrounding spiritual energy began pouring into his room, Guan realized that he had resumed cultivating. Interesting. Li Ya had already risen to prominence. Could Meng Lang have encountered an opportunity of his own as well? Come to think of it, the three of them had entered the Medicine Valley on the same day, bowed to the same master, and each possessed a tremendous opportunity. It almost sounded like the beginning of a legend. After thinking it over, Guan decided he was imagining too much. It would already be fortunate if Meng Lang managed to live out his natural lifespan. In Guan's view, with Meng Lang's temperament, the moment he left the valley, disaster would probably find him within days. He had no tact, angered easily, and did not resemble a cultivator in the slightest. Guan stopped dwelling on it and continued enjoying the Azure Hero's Travels. Every day, he spent 6 Xianxia drawing spiritual energy into his body, essentially cultivating during the hours he would otherwise have slept. Cultivators could go without sleep, and the process of absorbing spiritual energy was even better than sleep for restoring and relaxing the body. He did not spend all his remaining time reading travelogues. He studied other books as well. Xuanxuan had passed the 100 Herbs Compendium down to him. Compiled by the Taixuan Sect, it recorded spiritual flowers and herbs from across the world. Taixuan had even added personal annotations concerning some of their medicinal properties. Taixuan's cultivation was not high, but after living for a century, his knowledge was genuinely extensive. That was one advantage of poor aptitude. A person had far more time to broaden their knowledge and experience. Another snowy season arrived. Heavy snow filled the sky, blanketing every medicinal garden in endless white. Guan directed his junior brothers and sister as they cleared the accumulation. As for Meng Lang, the man had become obsessed. He hid in his room and cultivated all day. Guan could no longer order him around, and Xianxia had told him to leave Meng Lang alone. Special talismans surrounded every medicinal garden. They generated warmth and encouraged the herbs to grow. However, the talismans had limited lifespans. Once they expired, it took only a single Shichen for the heavy snow to bury an entire garden. Watching Xiaoshuan Lujujia and Yelan working busily, Guan's thoughts drifted elsewhere. He was growing increasingly dissatisfied with the Medicine Valley's output. They had to reclaim more land. Once this winter passed, Guan would have them climb the mountains, fell trees, and clear new fields. A sharp sound tore through the distant air. Guan turned and saw a man in plain robes riding a flying sword through the curtain of snow, looking every inch like a legendary sword immortal. Guan instinctively used lifespan inspection on him, and discovered that Du Ye had already reached the 6th level of the Qi refining realm. That was a rather fast breakthrough. Du Ye's arrival also drew the attention of Xiao Chuan and the other two. He flew directly above Guan, leaped from the sword, and extended a hand as he landed. The flying sword shot into the scabbard at his waist, its light glittering across the white world. The entire sequence flowed like drifting clouds and running water, indescribably elegant. Xiao Chuan and the others stared without blinking. They had not joined the Taixuan Sect because they wanted to perform menial labor. Every one of them wanted to cultivate immortality. They had only ended up here because their spiritual root aptitude was ordinary. All of them remained in the Medicine Valley while waiting for an opportunity. Du Yi looked Guan over, clapped both hands onto his shoulders, and laughed. Not bad. You've grown into yourself. You're no longer that hairless little brat who used to follow me everywhere. Guan greeted him with a smile while silently cursing in his heart. We were both all servants. Who are you pretending to be superior to? After looking around the valley, Du Ye finally came to the real purpose of his visit. Lowering his voice, he asked, "How are the medicinal herbs coming along? Follow me. You can collect them now." Guan nodded with a smile. He had indeed stored away a small batch of herbs. It was the share ordinarily allotted to the Medicine Valley's senior disciple, and he intended to give all of it to Du Ye. Although he could seize lifespan, accumulating it required time. Until he became completely invincible, he had to preserve his relationship with the Ji clan. There might come a day when he would need their help. The Chu clan might be powerful, but its fame was largely confined to the Taixuan Sect. The Ji clan was different. It stood among the greatest aristocratic cultivation clans of the entire Taichang dynasty. The Ji household where Guan had once lived was merely a minor branch established in a city. Disciples of the Ji clan could be found in nearly every cultivation sect throughout the dynasty. As they walked, Du Ye began talking about the outer sect. Li Ya came from your Medicine Valley, didn't he? He's made quite a name for himself recently. He is a member of the Taichang imperial family and is now fighting with one of his imperial elder brothers. The two of them even agreed to a life-and-death duel. The entire outer sect is talking about it. I heard Li Ya still stood useless several years ago. No one knows what opportunity he encountered, but his cultivation has advanced like the wind. He has already reached the 2nd level of the Foundation Establishment realm. Hearing Du Ye mention Li Ya, Guan became interested as well. Why did Li Ya sound exactly like the protagonist of some fantasy novel, burdened with a deep blood feud? Curious, Guan asked. Do you have to reach the Foundation Establishment realm before you can become an outer disciple? Du Ye nodded. Of course. Take me, for example. My cultivation is insufficient. Although I live in the outer sect, I am still classified as a servant disciple. I merely reside inside the outer city, which is why I can hear about these matters. Once someone reaches the Foundation Establishment realm, they can be promoted directly to outer disciple. Reaching the core formation realm allows one to become an inner disciple. Above inner disciples are personal disciples and true disciples. Those are only the public rules, of course. If someone possesses exceptional talent, the rules can be broken. Our third young lady is one such person. She became a personal disciple the moment she entered the sect. She is already considering competing for the position of true disciple. Cultivation alone is not enough to become a true disciple. One must also command respect, win people over, and possess sufficient prestige. That is why we need to prepare the way for her. Once Du Ye began speaking about Ji Xiaoyu, words poured from his mouth without end. For once, Guan did not find him tedious. He listened carefully. The two entered Guan's room. While listening, Guan brought out the bundle he had prepared in advance. Du Yi spoke for a long while before finally stopping. He lifted the bundle and asked unhappily, "Why is there so little?" Guan smiled. "We have plenty of time. Cultivation is not a matter of 1 or 2 years. Rather than becoming too greedy, getting demoted, and being expelled from the valley, it is better for me to remain here peacefully and provide herbs every year. I won't keep a single plant for myself. Everything will be offered up." Du Yi's expression eased. He asked again, "You mean that?" "I do. With aptitude like mine, what use would I have for medicinal herbs? All I want is to live a stable life in peace." Guan nodded. Du Yi opened his mouth, then finally let out a sigh. He touched the storage pouch at his waist, drew out a manual, and handed it to Guan. Guan accepted it and saw 4 words written on the cover. 8 directions step. That genuinely surprised him. Had this fellow suddenly developed a conscience? Du Ye explained. This is a movement technique of the Ji clan. Although it is only the foundational form of the Qilin step, one of the Ji clan's supreme arts, mastering it will make your footwork far more agile. If trouble finds you in the future, it may help you escape disaster. This technique does not demand any particular spiritual root aptitude. As long as you are willing to invest the time, you will definitely learn it. Guan looked at Du Ye differently. Just as he was about to say something, Du Ye lifted the bundle, clapped Guan on the shoulder once more, and walked past him. Guan turned and followed, seeing him to the door. Once they reached the courtyard, Du Ye looked back at him and said, "You and I grew up together. Although our choices sent us down different roads and gradually pulled us apart, that bond has not disappeared. If life here ever becomes unbearable, come and find me." With that, his left hand closed around his scabbard. Clang! The treasured sword leaped free. Du Ye sprang upward, landed on the blade, and flew away. Sword flight really was beautiful. Guan lowered his gaze to the manual in his hand, and the corner of his mouth curved upward. He began reading the 8 direction step, then immediately practiced it in the courtyard. A supreme art of the Ji clan? He wondered whether lifespan evolution could eventually derive the Ji clan's true supreme technique from it. After Xiaoshuan, Lu Jiujia, and Ye Lan finished clearing the medicinal gardens, they hurried into Guan's courtyard and watched him practice with curiosity. "Senior brother, what technique are you practicing?" Ye Lan asked. Guan continued moving through the footwork and replied with a smile. "Do the 3 of you want to learn it?" "Yes," all 3 answered at once. "Once I have learned it properly, I will teach you." Bang! The door of the neighboring room was violently thrown open. Meng Lang emerged with bloodshot eyes. Thick red veins bulged across his forehead, making him look terrifying. Xiaoshuan, Lu Jiujia, and Ye Lan were all startled. Meng Lang charged straight toward Ye Lan, who stood closest to him. He looked like a maddened beast, his momentum savage and violent. Ye Lan froze in fear and had no time to react. In less than a breath, Meng Lang was about to crash into her. Guan seized Ye Lan by the shoulder and pulled her behind him while planting his right foot against Meng Lang's chest. Boom! Meng Lang's aura erupted, force swirled around his body, and his feet carved 2 long trenches through the ground. Slowly straightened his right leg, forcing Meng Lang backward. Xiaoshuan and the others stared with widened eyes. The image of Guan standing before them was branded deep into their minds. Was senior brother really this powerful? Guan always defeated them in their ordinary sparring sessions, but those bouts did not involve spiritual power. Xiaochuan and Lu Jiujia had both believed that they would surpass him sooner or later. Meng Lang suddenly clamped both hands around Guan's right leg. A brutal force surged from his body as he tried to snap it. Guan abruptly pushed off the ground, then stamped down with tremendous force. With a heavy thud, Meng Lang was driven to his knees. Both knees sank deep into the mud. His entire body trembled, yet he could not push Guan's foot away. He looked utterly wretched. Seeing Guan suppress Meng Lang with a single leg, Xiaoshuan, Lu Jiujia, and Ye Lan became wildly excited. Meng Lang always claimed to be the strongest person in the Medicine Valley. Yet now, after losing control, senior brother had forced him to kneel with one foot. No wonder Guan was the senior disciple instead of Meng Lang. Master truly possessed discerning eyes. Guan looked down at Meng Lang and said, "Still not awake?" Spiritual power flowed from his right leg into Meng Lang's body, forcibly soothing the chaotic energy inside him. Meng Lang's breathing gradually stabilized. The blood in his eyes faded, and his savage expression slowly returned to normal. Once Guan saw that he had regained awareness, he withdrew his leg and helped him stand. Meng Lang suddenly came fully awake. He looked up at Guan, panting with his mouth open. "Guan? What happened to me just now?" he asked with difficulty. The violently surging blood and qi inside him made speaking painful. "Your cultivation seems to have deviated. You nearly went berserk," Guan replied. Meng Lang's eyes widened. "I didn't hurt any of you, did I?" Xiaoshuan and Lu Jiujia immediately made strange expressions. Ye Lan instinctively opened her mouth to answer, but Guan spoke first. "Fortunately, you managed to restrain yourself at the crucial moment." Meng Lang released a breath of relief. With a strained smile, he said, "Of course! I am the true senior brother here, after all. How could I possibly harm my juniors?" Ye Lan looked at Guan with eyes filled with worship. Senior brother was not only powerful, but incredibly gentle as well. Xiaoshuan and Lu Jiujia felt the same. At the same time, they looked down on Meng Lang. He certainly knew how to talk. A moment ago, he had looked like a demon. Guan told the 3 of them to disperse, then supported Meng Lang back to his room. "What kind of technique are you cultivating?" "It is far too sinister," Guan asked. Although he did not think highly of Meng Lang, the two had lived beside one another day and night for years. If possible, Guan still hoped he would remain safe. Meng Lang chuckled weakly. A divine art, of course. My aptitude and comprehension simply aren't good enough, so it is easy for the cultivation to go astray. But I have no other choice. I have to become an outer disciple, Guan asked in confusion. Why must you become an outer disciple? Didn't you used to say that it didn't matter? Meng Lang's expression immediately darkened, and he fell silent. Seeing that he had no wish to speak, Guan did not question him further. After helping him onto the bed, Guan turned and left. To Guan, this was merely an interruption. He could not control another person's fate. Everyone had their own pursuits. If someone died on the road to immortality, that was the price of the path they had chosen. Once he returned to the courtyard, Guan continued practicing the 8 directions step. Winter passed, and spring returned. Another year of beautiful scenery arrived. Early one morning, traces of ice and snow still remained throughout the Medicine Valley, as Guan led his junior brothers and sister up the mountain. Felling trees and uprooting stumps can also be a form of cultivation. Use your spiritual power to do the work. Once your energy is exhausted, sit down and cultivate to restore it. Repeating that process will help strengthen your cultivation. Guan wore green robes and stood amid the forest with both hands clasped behind his back. He spoke with a soft smile, carrying the bearing of an accomplished expert. On the day he subdued the berserk Meng Lang with one leg, he successfully established the image of a hidden master in the hearts of his juniors. Guan even suspected that his youngest junior sister had begun harboring other feelings for him. She clung to him more with every passing day. Fortunately, he had promptly directed Yilan's attention toward cultivation, giving her something else to focus on. How could someone pursuing immortality allow romance to become a burden? In this life, Guan had no intention of being drawn into the whirlpool of love too early. That would only make him lose his way. Xiaoshuan turned and asked, "Senior brother, should we use our hands or our feet?" Still smiling, Guan replied, "Use whatever is most convenient. Cultivation is one matter, but completing the task is another. You must choose the most suitable method for each." Was this how Zhang Chunqiu used to feel? Spouting impressive-sounding nonsense was surprisingly enjoyable. "Senior brother Xiaoshuan, let's see who can finish faster," Lu Jujia said, rubbing his hands and flexing his legs. Xiaoshuan immediately agreed. Yilan loudly demanded to join as well, but the other two ignored her. They did not enjoy competing with girls. Guan watched them uproot trees while planning the new garden. What kind of medicinal herbs should they plant on this mountain slope? He fell into thought. Although Xiaoshuan and the other two were cultivators, their realms were still low. It took them a full half-day to clear a single patch of land. Guan then brought out third-grade soul-swaying grass seeds and instructed them to plant them. Once everything was finished, the senior and junior disciples descended the mountain together, laughing and talking. The setting sun hung in the west, stretching their shadows far across the slope. Guan asked each of them to speak about their goals. All three wanted to enter the outer sect, but their motives were different. Xiaoshuan simply wanted to become stronger. Lu Jujia wanted to prove himself to his family. Seemed to carry a private burden, and whenever the subject arose, she spoke vaguely and avoided details. Guan listened with great interest. He believed everyone should have a story of their own. Listening to different lives and ambitions could make his own long existence more colorful. A month had passed since the soul-swaying grass was planted. That night, the moon and stars shone with unusual clarity. Inside his room, Guan sat cross-legged on the bed, staring at his attribute panel in hesitation. Guan. Lifespan, 2363. Spiritual roots, first-rate wood spiritual root. The other 4 elemental spiritual roots are above average. Lifespan may be invested to evolve cultivation. Cultivation, 9th level of the Qi refining realm. Lifespan may be invested to evolve cultivation. Cultivation arts. Fire control art, not yet mastered. Divine wood pure yang art, mastered to perfection. Dragon whale divine essence art, mastered to perfection. Lifespan may be invested to evolve cultivation. Ultimate arts. Raging gale shadowless kick, completely mastered. 7 swords of the Li family, not yet mastered. 8 direction step, not yet mastered. Lifespan may be invested to evolve cultivation. Should he use lifespan to break through his cultivation realm? Cheng Zhandan was capable of refining foundation establishment pills. For the current Guan, that was useful. Perhaps he could ask Cheng Zhandan for one. However, Meng Lang's recent abnormal behavior made Guan wary of Cheng Zhandan again. Meng Lang did not possess any impressive background. If he had carried a divine art with him, he should have begun cultivating it long ago. Why had he waited until Li Ya and Zhang Chunqiu both left before starting? With Guan's current senses, he could confirm that Meng Lang had not met any strangers over the past 2 years. At most, Cheng Zhandan occasionally summoned him. As for what the two discussed, Guan did not eavesdrop every single time. Forget it. Depending on others was never as reliable as depending on oneself. It was better to proceed cautiously. On the path of cultivation, a single careless step could reduce a person to shattered bones and dust. Guan immediately invested 1 year of lifespan into evolving his cultivation. Special reminder: cultivation exists in reality. Evolution turns the unreal into the real, and the lifespan consumed will greatly exceed the amount that ordinary cultivation would require. You focused on absorbing spiritual energy for 1 year. Because you lacked a foundation establishment pill and the necessary opportunity, you failed to break through to the foundation establishment realm. The two messages appeared before Guan. Since the breakthrough failed, his cultivation did not increase at all. His expression remained unchanged as he continued investing 1 year at a time. Failure, failure, failure. After exactly 9 attempts, his face finally twisted. Damn it, I refuse to believe this. 100 years. Burning with anger, Guan immediately invested 100 years of lifespan into evolving his cultivation. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 10 years. Using your profound mastery of the divine wood pure yang art, you forcibly attempted to break through to the foundation establishment realm, but ultimately failed. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 20 years. Using your profound mastery of the divine wood pure yang art, you forcibly attempted to break through to the foundation establishment realm, and finally succeeded. Oak. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 30 years. Your cultivation broke through to the second level of the foundation establishment realm. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 50 years. Your cultivation broke through to the third level of the foundation establishment realm. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 70 years. Your cultivation broke through to the fourth level of the foundation establishment realm. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 100 years. Your cultivation broke through to the fifth level of the foundation establishment realm. Messages appeared one after another before Guan's eyes. He had not even had time to rejoice before sensing that something was wrong. Breaking through so many levels at once, how enormous would the disturbance be? The moment that thought appeared, his body began to heat up. The divine wood pure yang art circulated automatically. Guan sprang to his feet and shot through the open window. His movements were extraordinarily fast and completely silent. In fewer than 3 breaths, he had entered the mountains. His feet struck the cliff face as he climbed like a white ape, quickly reaching the summit. By then, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was already surging toward him. He leaped from the peak and dropped into the dark forest. His right foot touched a branch, borrowing its force to launch him onward. After several rapid bounds, he landed lightly on the ground. Spiritual energy poured frantically into his body, forming a vortex around him. The rate of absorption grew faster and faster, alarming him. Fortunately, his reaction had been quick. If he had truly broken through inside the Medicine Valley, he would certainly have disturbed everyone. Cheng Xuanden and Meng Lang might not dare to come outside, but Xiaoshuan and Lu Jiujia, those 2 inexperienced little brats, would definitely have run out to investigate. As he thought, Guan continued rushing forward. He moved as swiftly as a spirit fox. Beneath the night sky, the forest shook and rustled in his wake. Using the Raging Gale Shadowless Kick as a movement technique, Guan raced across ridges and valleys at incredible speed. The Medicine Valley fell farther and farther behind him. Before he could stop, his cultivation began to break through. Violent spiritual energy charged through his extraordinary meridians and 8 vessels while transforming his dantian. It hurt! Guan frowned, but his pace did not slow in the slightest. After running wildly for more than 10 li, he finally stopped in the middle of a forest and sat beneath a tree to circulate his art. As he cultivated, he could not help reflecting on what had happened. He had never expected a mere 100 years of lifespan to carry him from the 9th level of key refining all the way to the 5th level of foundation establishment. Seizing lifespan truly was an extraordinary ability. Of course, the primary reason he could advance so rapidly was that the divine wood pure yang art had already reached perfect mastery. If he invested another 1,000 years, could he reach the core formation realm in a single attempt? Could he perhaps even touch the nascent soul realm? Guan's imagination ran wild. He absorbed more and more spiritual energy. The entire mountain forest seemed caught in a violent storm. Trees swayed fiercely, and fallen leaves filled the air. Beneath the darkness, they resembled countless demons and ghosts baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. This disturbance seems a little excessive. Guan groaned inwardly. The drawback of using lifespan to evolve cultivation had revealed itself. Such enormous disturbances could easily attract trouble. After an evolution, his cultivation did not simply increase on its own. Instead, all the spiritual energy required for the simulated years was compressed into a limited period, forcing him through breakthroughs at tremendous speed. Advancing from the 9th level of key refining to the 5th level of foundation establishment had already caused this much commotion. When he eventually advanced from core formation to nascent soul, would the disturbance not shake heaven and earth? If other cultivators were drawn over during the breakthrough, matters would become troublesome. Guan was accustomed to considering the worst possible outcome. No, he had to be even more careful from now on. He decided that in the future, he would invest only 1 year of lifespan into his cultivation each day, progressing in a steady and gradual manner. Time passed swiftly. The night wind roared, and Guan's robes snapped around him as the spiritual power inside his body increased at astonishing speed. A short while later, his aura abruptly changed. Foundation establishment successful. His Danshan transformed, accelerating the growth of his spiritual power while strengthening his tendons, bones, and every part of his body. It was not over. His cultivation continued soaring. Dust and shredded grass swirled violently around him, creating an imposing spectacle. Second level of the Foundation establishment realm. Third level, fourth level. Guan felt no joy at the speed of his breakthroughs. His nerves remained stretched tight, terrified that someone might arrive. The Taixuan Sect's territory was vast, and signs of human activity were rare within 100 li of the Medicine Valley. Surely he would not alert any great cultivators. The thought had barely crossed his mind when he suddenly sensed 2 powerful auras approaching from the distance. Both were stronger than Chu Jingfeng had been. Whatever he feared immediately came true. He was in the middle of advancing from the 4th to the 5th level of Foundation establishment, and could not conveniently stand. Even if he ran now, escaping those 2 would be difficult. This was serious trouble. Guan anxiously tracked the 2 approaching auras. When they came within 100 jang, both stopped on the far side of the nearest mountain. Guan sat in a dark forest dressed in deep green robes. Dust churned densely around him, making it extremely difficult to see his figure clearly. Realizing that the 2 did not force their way closer, he released a breath of relief. It appeared they were wary of him as well and did not dare disturb him recklessly. His cultivation continued increasing. The disturbance around him was too loud, and a mountain stood between them, so he could not hear what the 2 were saying. That prevented him from relaxing completely. Even after he reached the 5th level of Foundation establishment, the 2 people beyond the mountain still made no move. The growth of his cultivation finally began to slow. Guan raised his right hand and pressed it against the branch behind him. He linked his spiritual power with the tree, and a thread of green light appeared on the wood, circling his palm. Once the green light formed a complete loop, he pulled his hand back and tore a wooden mask directly from the branch. He placed the mask over his face, then used a finger from his other hand to trace 2 eye holes. The marked pieces peeled away, completing the mask. Spiritual energy was still flowing into his body, but he could now stand. Apparently sensing that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was gradually returning to calm, a resonant voice called from the distance. "May I ask which fellow Taoist is breaking through here? Why are you not doing so inside your own cave residence?" The speaker's tone was grave. Clearly they suspected that Guan was not a disciple of the Taixuan Sect. Guan hesitated over whether to answer. He was only a servant disciple. If people discovered that he had reached Foundation establishment only a few years after joining the sect, he might indeed enter the outer sect smoothly, but danger would follow soon afterward. The disturbance tonight had been far too great. If those 2 learned his identity, then a 3rd person and a 4th would soon know as well. What if someone developed malicious intentions toward him? Guan could not be blamed for overthinking. Having grown up as a servant, he had witnessed the darkness of the human heart far too often. While fastening the wooden mask with vines, he considered his options. A cold gleam shone in his eyes, piercing the darkness. No, he could not expose himself. Guan wanted no trouble. Even becoming an outer disciple would not necessarily be a good thing for him. The Taixuan Sect did not support useless disciples. Every outer disciple had to accept sect missions, and those missions inevitably carried mortal danger. Once his cultivation fully stabilized, Guan rose to his feet. The mask concealed his face, leaving only his eyes visible. A vortex of energy still surrounded his body. At that moment, Guan sensed the 2 auras atop the mountain, rushing toward him at tremendous speed. Clearly, they had decided he was an intruder. The only reason Guan had dared remain silent was that he could tell their cultivation was not much stronger than his own. Had they felt impossible to resist, he would never have spent so much time considering his options. He immediately turned and fled deeper into the forest. Whoosh! A sharp sound split the air behind him. Guan glanced back and saw a streak of cold light tearing through the dark woods, snapping branches along its path. Behind the sword light flew a woman. She wore white robes. Her right arm was fully extended, her palm pressed against the sword hilt, as spiritual power linked her body to the weapon. Razor-sharp sword chi burst from the blade with unstoppable momentum, making her resemble a startled swan gliding through the forest. In an instant, her sword reached Guan's back, less than half a zhang away. Guan planted his left foot, leaned his body slightly backward, and bent his knee. The blade swept past him by the narrowest margin. The white-robed woman's eyes widened. Darkness concealed most of her face, but the sword light illuminated her beautiful, striking eyes, revealing their astonishment. The description sounded lengthy, but everything happened in a flash. As Guan lowered his body, he drove his right leg backward. The kick struck the woman's abdomen. A force unlike anything she had ever experienced crashed into her, instantly blanking her mind. Blood burst from her mouth. Bang! The woman in white was hurled away. She smashed through a large tree before falling onto the grass, her fate unknown. "How dare you!" A furious roar rang out. Guan focused and saw a figure wrapped in blue light charging toward him, leaving afterimages behind. So fast, his eyes could not keep up with the man's movement technique. In alarm, Guan immediately unleashed the Raging Gale Shadowless Kick. He had almost no true combat experience. When dealing with the Greedwrath demon, he had merely swung a palm in panic. Faced with a powerful opponent now, he did not dare allow the man to close the distance. Spiritual power poured into his right leg. He stepped back, then kicked forward with explosive force. A dazzling gale erupted from the kick, roaring toward the blue-lit figure. Inside that blue light was a man drawing his sword. His pupils abruptly contracted, filled entirely with countless leg shadows. Dust exploded into the air. Row after row of trees collapsed. Kick shadows carrying destructive force engulfed the swordsman and swept across more than 10 zhang, producing a terrifying spectacle. Guan withdrew his leg, turned and vanished into the darkness. The forest gradually returned to silence. When the dust finally settled, the swordsman lay motionless on the ground. Early the next morning, Yilan stepped out of her room. As usual, she glanced toward the courtyard where her senior brothers lived. The wall separating the two courtyards was not very high, allowing her to see their figures. "They're so diligent. I can't let them leave me behind." With that thought, she hurried over. After entering the courtyard, she walked quickly to Guan's side and greeted him softly. "Senior brother." Guan smiled and nodded to her. "Senior brother, are you planning to work today?" Yilan asked curiously. Guan had changed into a set of plain cloth clothing. They were his old work clothes, which he wore only when harvesting medicinal herbs. "Yes. I plan to find some time this afternoon to inspect the mountain fields," he replied. Yilan did not think much of it. She continued. "The wind was so strong last night that I didn't dare cultivate. I was afraid the chaotic spiritual energy would disrupt my circulation while I was absorbing A. Senior brother, I heard Senior brother Meng say that demons once attacked the valley. What happened back then?" While watching Xiaochuan and Lu Jujia practice the remnant wind kick, Guan calmly described what had happened. He was always patient, no matter whom he spoke with. Half a shichen later, his junior brothers and sister left one after another. Guan finally welcomed a period of leisure. He lay beneath a tree, holding the Azure Hero's Travels in one hand while stroking the white spirit rat with the other. Life could hardly be more comfortable. Even so, his thoughts remained fixed on the two people he had encountered the previous night. He had restrained his strength. Surely he had not killed them. Guan felt somewhat uneasy. After all, he had no grudge against either of them. When there was no hatred between them, Guan had no desire to take a life. That worry made the entire day feel uncomfortable. The sun set, the moon rose, and noon arrived the following day. Guan was leaning against a wooden railing while reading when he suddenly noticed figures at the entrance of the valley. Looking carefully, he realized there was more than one. A man and a woman. Guan released a quiet breath of relief. It was good that neither had died. He used the Dragon Whale Divine Essence art to suppress his cultivation at the 3rd level of the Qi refining realm, leaving no fear that they would recognize him. Cheng Xuanden soon emerged from his pavilion and walked quickly toward the pair, clasping his fists in greeting. Before him stood a white-robed woman and a blue-robed man. The woman possessed an exquisitely beautiful but cold face. Her skin was as pale and smooth as fine jade, with almond-shaped eyes and slender brows. Her right hand held her sword scabbard. A proud, frigid presence surrounded her, warning strangers to keep their distance. The man in blue was handsome as well, with a straight figure and luxurious brocade robes, though his face was slightly pale. Both were outer disciples of the Taixuan Sect. The man's name was Xiyang, and the woman's name was Li Xuanyu. Facing Cheng Xuanden, Xiyang forced a smile and explained why they had come. After listening, Cheng Xuanden replied, "No outsiders have entered our medicine valley over the past 2 days." Cheng Xuanden had lived for a century and experienced countless situations. His demeanor remained perfectly calm. Xiyang looked into the valley and asked, "Could you gather your disciples here?" Cheng Xuanden raised no objection. He turned, gathered qi in his dantian, and called out loudly. Guan and the others hurried over after hearing him. "Xiaochuan, go drag senior brother Meng out as well," Cheng Xuanden ordered. Xiaochuan immediately turned and ran to find Meng Lang. Xiyang and Li Xuanyu began examining Guan and the other two. Both frowned without saying a word. Xianxia waited silently for Meng Lang to arrive. Guan took the opportunity to inspect the lifespans of the two outer disciples. The previous night had been too urgent for him to do so. Li Xuanyu, 4th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. 24-245-1607. Shi Yang, 5th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. 25-298-1304. Impressive. Both were geniuses. They had reached Foundation Establishment in their 20s, and their maximum lifespans exceeded 1,000 years. Li Xuanyu's limit was even higher than Li Ya's. They both carried the surname Li. Could this woman also belong to the imperial family? Guan was secretly alarmed. Fortunately, he had not exposed his identity the previous night. Before long, Xiaoshuan returned with an anxious-looking Meng Lang. When Shi Yang saw Meng Lang, his eyes narrowed. He transmitted his voice to Li Xuanyu. Junior sister Li, this boy's aura is chaotic and he shows signs of cultivation deviation. His realm is very low, but he may be connected to the person we're looking for. Li Xuanyu stared at Meng Lang. Her cold eyes seemed capable of seeing through him. Meng Lang sensed their scrutiny. Seeing their extraordinary clothing, he immediately restrained his expression, lowered his head and stood beside Guan. Xiaoshuan followed closely behind. Cheng Xuanden asked, "The night before last, a mysterious cultivator broke through more than 10 li from the Medicine Valley. The person may have been a spy from a demonic sect. Have any of you seen a stranger over the past few days? Wonderful." Now he had become a demonic spy. Guan cursed inwardly while furrowing his brows and showing concern on his face. Meng Lang's eyes widened. "Don't tell me another demon has infiltrated the valley. Another? What do you mean?" Xiang asked sharply. Meng Lang had never been capable of keeping his mouth shut. He immediately recounted the previous incident involving the Greed Wrath demon. When Xiang learned that an inner disciple had also been involved, his expression changed. Was this region really so dangerous? Xiang immediately lost much of his desire to continue investigating. Guan seized the opportunity to ask, "Seniors, did you encounter that demonic spy yourselves? Could you give us some clue about what the person looked like?" The others nodded. The words demonic spy had made everyone anxious. Xiang considered the question before replying. "The night was too dark. I only remember that his kicking technique was extremely fast." "An extremely fast kicking technique?" Xiaoshuan, Lu Jujia, and Ye Lan all reacted. The three simultaneously thought of Guan, but none looked toward him. They kept the suspicion inside their hearts. Meng Lang asked, "What does that mean? Are you saying the two of you couldn't defeat the demonic spy?" Shi Yang's face immediately darkened. He drew a deep breath and said, "It is true that our skills were inferior. I am at the 5th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm, while my younger cousin is at the 4th. That demonic cultivator defeated us with ease, so his cultivation is difficult to measure. If any of you possess a clue, speak now. Otherwise, you may invite disaster upon yourselves." The moment he revealed their cultivation, Meng Lang, Xiaoshuan, and the others drew in sharp breaths. Meng Lang was shocked. He hurriedly asked, "If the two of you were no match for him, why do you still dare search for him? Why not ask an inner disciple to come?" Xiang replied, "We have made other preparations." He found Meng Lang increasingly irritating. The boy truly deserved a beating. Every sentence he spoke struck directly at another person's sorest point. Guan seized the opportunity to say, "If the other party truly was a spy from a demonic sect, yet defeated both seniors so easily, then something does not make sense. Your injuries are not severe. In fact, one could say you were barely injured at all. Would a demonic cultivator really show such mercy?" Shi Yang turned toward him with a complicated look. After thinking for a moment, he answered, "It is indeed difficult to be certain. However, both outer and inner disciples possess private cave residences. There would be no reason for one of them to come here to break through. Something about this is unquestionably strange. Are you certain none of you have any clue?" Li Xuanyu studied Guan. Guan pretended to be nervous and did not dare meet the eyes of the two outer disciples. "Seniors, it appears my disciples truly have not encountered any demonic spy," Cheng Xuanden said, breaking the awkward silence. Xiang still wanted to question them, but Li Xuanyu spoke first. "In that case, we will take our leave." She clasped her fists toward Cheng Xuanden, then turned and departed. Xiang could only follow her. Before leaving, he cast Meng Lang a final glare. Xiaoshuan turned toward Guan, clearly wanting to say something, but Ye Lan stopped him. She placed a finger against her lips, signaling silence, then gave him a meaningful wink. Cheng Xuanden said nothing more and returned to his pavilion. Only after Shi Yang and Li Xuanyu had left the valley did Guan head back toward his courtyard. The others followed close behind, while Xiaoshuan repeatedly looked as though he wanted to speak. Guan glanced at him and asked with a smile, "What is it? Do you truly believe senior brother's kicking technique could be powerful enough to defeat two Foundation Establishment cultivators?" Xiaoshuan's face reddened, and he scratched his head awkwardly. Meng Lang burst into laughter. Your senior brother is only at the 3rd level of the Qi refining realm. Besides, the remnant wind kick he practices is one of the most ordinary kicking techniques in the Outer Sect. How could he possibly be the demonic spy those outer disciples described? Lu Jujia nodded. He genuinely had never suspected that Guan might be a demonic spy. In his eyes, senior brother was the gentlest and kindest person he had ever met. Yi Lan was slightly displeased. Even if it is the most ordinary kicking technique, senior brother will eventually cultivate it to an extraordinary level. Meng Lang had never learned that Guan had suppressed him with one leg that day. Guan had specifically instructed the younger disciples to keep quiet, and none of them had revealed a word. Meng Lang shook his head with a soft laugh and walked away by himself. He intended to practice a few spells in the forest. Yi Lan glared at his back, angrily waving her fist. Her small face puffed up like a pair of steamed buns. All right, go cultivate on your own. Work hard so you can enter the Outer Sect as soon as possible, Guan said with a smile, waving for them to disperse. Elsewhere, Xiyang and Li Xuanyu rode flying swords side by side above the mountain range. They did not travel quickly, and their gazes swept across the landscape below. Caozhen, I keep feeling that something was wrong with that Medicine Valley, Xiyang said, a cold gleam flashing through his eyes. That person had shown far too little respect. The more Xiyang remembered Meng Lang's irritating expression, the angrier he became. Li Xuanyu remained cold and composed. She said softly, I believe that servant disciple was correct. The person may not have been a demonic spy at all. Perhaps he merely did not wish to be recognized. The fact that we are both still alive is the strongest evidence. Xiyang frowned. Could such a person really be hiding in the Outer Sect? I sensed that he was at least at the 9th level of Foundation establishment. I have never seen that kicking technique before either. It must be some kind of supreme art. His background is probably anything but ordinary. We will learn the truth sooner or later. Li Xuanyu lifted her eyes toward the horizon. She seemed to think of something, and her delicate brows drew together faintly. Xiyang also fell silent. Both of them were famous geniuses within the Outer Sect. Merely imagining that the opponent from that night might also be an outer disciple dealt a heavy blow to his pride. Summer gradually arrived. The summers of the Taixuan Sect were oppressively hot, making the world itself appear distorted. As Lu Jujia turned the soil, white steam rose from his entire body. Guan was now 21 years old. He sat in the courtyard refining pills. A small cauldron stood before him, and he stared at the boiling medicinal liquid, uncertain whether he should throw in the herb he held. Alchemy truly demanded skill. While Guan was struggling with the decision, Meng Lang hurried into the courtyard and rushed into his room. Fewer than 10 breaths later, he emerged carrying a bundle of clothing. Guan, I'm going to take the Outer Sect examination. Once I accomplish something great, I'll come back and look after you. After saying that, Meng Lang left in high spirits. The Outer Sect examination? Guan was surprised. Meng Lang had only reached the 7th level of the Qi refining realm. How could he qualify to participate? Unless someone displayed extraordinary talent upon entering the sect, they had to wait until successfully reaching Foundation establishment before joining the Outer Sect. This was the Taixuan Sect, the foremost cultivation sect of the Taikang dynasty. A Foundation establishment cultivator might be worshipped as an honored expert in a third-rate sect, but here, such a person could only become an outer disciple. Guan watched Meng Lang run away and saw Cheng Xuanden descending from his pavilion. Cheng Xuanden intended to leave the valley with Meng Lang. Guan sensed that something was hidden behind this matter. Even if he tried to stop Meng Lang now, the man would not listen. He had become obsessed with obtaining the status of an outer disciple. Why interfere? I still have my own path to longevity to pursue. If I involve myself in this and that, will I ever enjoy a peaceful life? With that thought, Guan's gaze became firm. He continued refining pills and forced himself not to think about Meng Lang. The result was that he sat before the small cauldron for an entire day and successfully produced a pile of medicinal residue. Only deep into the night did he leave the valley. He did not leave because of Meng Lang but to cultivate alone. 2 months had passed since Xiyang and Li Xuanyu departed, and Guan was ready to begin his daily plan. From then on, every night, he would secretly leave the valley and invest 1 year of lifespan into his cultivation. This first nightly investment still caused a noticeable disturbance, but it was far smaller than before and ended very quickly. The next day, Guan casually asked Yi Lan how her cultivation had gone the previous night. She had heard nothing and said everything had proceeded smoothly. Guan finally relaxed completely. The daily plan could be implemented. Day after day passed. Cheng Xuanden and Meng Lang had been gone for half a month without returning. Guan was almost certain that Meng Lang had encountered more misfortune than fortune. Whenever Zhang Chunqiu had previously gone to the Outer Sect, he returned within 7 days at most. He had never been delayed for so long. Xiao Xuan and the others repeatedly asked when their master would return. Guan could only divert their attention and urge them to focus on cultivation. 2 months later, Cheng Xuandan finally came back. His hair had turned completely white, and he no longer wore his cloth hat. His appearance terrified Xiaoshuan and the other two, who quickly gathered around him. Guan did the same. Your master is fine. A few days of rest will be enough. Cheng Xuandan waved a hand. His voice was extremely weak. He gently pushed Lu Jujias aside, then walked toward his pavilion. Guan frowned. He saw that Cheng Xuandan's cultivation had fallen to the second level of the qi refining realm. His lifespan had also been drastically shortened, leaving him only 2 years to live. Guan had initially believed that Cheng Xuandan intended to harm Meng Lang, perhaps seize his body, or refine him into a puppet. Yet Chengxuan himself now looked as though he might die at any moment. Guan watched his departing figure and sank into thought. Seeing Guan's concern, Yilan comforted him. "Senior brother, don't worry. Master will be all right." Guan looked at her and nodded with a smile. After exchanging a few words with his juniors, he left by himself. "I feel that something is wrong with Master," Lu Jujiao whispered, pulling Xiaochuan closer. His brows were tightly furrowed and his eyes had become unusually sharp. Xiaoshuan nodded. "Something is definitely wrong." Lu Jujiao leaned close to his ear and began speaking in a low voice. Yilan continued watching Guan's back. After returning, Cheng Xuandan remained shut inside his room. Guan could sense him circulating his cultivation to heal his injuries, but his aura grew weaker with each passing day. Only when winter was about to begin did Cheng Xuandan finally emerge. He called to Guan from a distance, and Guan immediately hurried over. "Master." Guan bowed respectfully. Cheng Xuandan's hair was completely white. Even his beard and eyebrows had turned silver. Age spots had appeared across his face and his entire body looked ancient and frail. "Come, I will take you to the outer sect." Cheng Xuandan stroked his beard and smiled with great kindness. Guan could not help asking, "Why are we going to the outer sect? Do you not wish to become the Valley Master one day?" Cheng Xuandan asked in return. Guan's heart immediately began beating faster. On the surface, however, his expression changed dramatically, and he asked in alarm, "Master, what happened to you? Please don't frighten me." Seeing his panic, Cheng Xuandan's eyes became even gentler. "Come, we will speak on the road." With that, Cheng Xuandan turned and walked toward the valley entrance. Guan hurriedly gave Xiaoshuan, who stood nearest, a few instructions before following his master. After leaving the valley, Cheng Xuandan headed into the forest. He was no longer capable of flying on a sword, which meant they would have to walk all the way to the outer sect. Guan suddenly wanted to turn back and warn Xiaoshuan and the others not to harvest the medicinal herbs that were close to maturity. They should wait until he returned and let him do it personally. Master and disciple walked through the forest. Guan tried to support Cheng Xuandan, but the old man politely refused. The sect provides only limited resources to a valley master. In the future, you must consider carefully before recruiting servant disciples. In addition, a fixed portion of the harvest must be submitted every year. Cheng Xuandan walked ahead and spoke at an unhurried pace. Guan appeared to listen attentively but remained vigilant inside. Meng Lang's fate was still unknown, after all. Cheng Xuandan moved slowly, and the terrain was filled with mountains and ridges. After half a shichen, they had covered only a few li. Guan could barely endure it. At this pace, how long should it take them to reach the outer sect? He even considered carrying Cheng Xuandan on his back. After they crossed a small stream, Cheng Xuandan suddenly asked without turning around, "Why have you not asked where Meng Lang went?" Guan pretended to be confused. "Didn't he go to participate in the outer sect examination? Did he fail? I deceived him. I refined him into a medicinal goo." Cheng Zhuan continued walking as he answered, apparently unconcerned that Guan might attack him from behind. Guan's expression did not change. He carefully sensed the surroundings and confirmed that no one else was nearby. "A medicinal goo? Master, you?" Guan asked, feigning shock. Did Cheng Xuandan intend to act against him as well? The old man still did not look back. He pushed aside several branches blocking the path, bent beneath them, and continued forward. "Meng Lang's aptitude was slightly better than yours, but only slightly. Even with my pills, reaching Foundation establishment would have been extremely difficult for him. The Medicine Valley requires only one successor. His existence would have become a threat to you. You should already have recognized the flaws in his character." Guan fell silent. Something about those words sounded deeply wrong, as though Cheng Xuandan had killed Meng Lang for his sake. Yet Guan had never wanted Meng Lang to die. Meng Lang was careless and irritating, but his nature was not truly evil. "Do not think too much about it. Although I killed him to clear the road for you, if blame must be placed, then blame his aptitude for being stronger than yours. I was protecting the future master of the Medicine Valley," Cheng Xuandan said indifferently. Guan could not stop himself from asking, shouldn't the person with better aptitude be chosen as Valley Master? If someone's aptitude is too exceptional, how could they remain here peacefully for an entire lifetime? Is there something special about this Medicine Valley? There is. I am not merely a disciple of the Taixuan Sect. I am also an agent of the Heavenly Autumn Pavilion. The Heavenly Autumn Pavilion is a demonic sect. Its strength cannot compare with the Taixuan Sect, so it has planted many agents like me throughout the sect. Wonderful. There truly was a demonic spy. Guan suddenly did not know what to say. He finally understood. Cheng Xuanden genuinely had no intention of harming him. The truly frightening part was that the old man clearly intended to pass this burden of espionage down to him. After I die, remain here and serve as Valley Master. You do not need to accomplish anything extraordinary. When the Heavenly Autumn Pavilion needs you, someone will naturally come. You need only follow their instructions. Of course, you may also report everything to the Taixuan Sect. I have only a few years left to live in any case. However, you must consider whether the Taixuan Sect will truly protect you. For a servant disciple like you, they would rather kill the wrong person than allow a possible spy to escape. Cheng Xuanden spoke with a trace of relief in his voice, making Guan want to hit him. Remember the Heavenly Autumn Pavilion's countersign. Across 1,000 autumns, the Azure Vine's heart knows no regret. Amid 10,000 lonely arts, its root is hard to find. Do I have no other choice? What do you think? Guan fell silent once again. An agent like me is insignificant even to the Heavenly Autumn Pavilion. Perhaps no one from the pavilion will ever contact you in your entire life, Cheng Xuanden said with self-mockery. The more Guan considered it, the more he realized that resistance truly was difficult. This was like mud slipping into one's trouser leg. Whether he admitted it or not, he would still be treated as a demonic spy. Master, if you are a cultivator of the Heavenly Autumn Pavilion, there must be a reason you remained in this Medicine Valley. Why continue hiding it from me? Guan asked in a low voice. You are indeed intelligent. Correct, a 7th grade spirit tree is hidden beneath the Medicine Valley. After we return, I will take you to see it. 7th grade? Guan's voice trembled, and his eyes lit up brightly. Fine snow drifted through heaven and earth. A majestic city stood amid the mountains, its gates 10 zhang high. Some people entered on foot, others flew in on swords, and a few Taixuan Sect disciples rode spiritual beasts. Walking along the mountain road, Guan saw the outer city of the Taixuan Sect from afar. Astonishment filled his eyes. It was enormous. The Taixuan Sect has 8 outer cities. Within them are 4 inner cities. At the center of those 4 inner cities stands the sect's main city, a place only peerless geniuses and people of great status may enter. It is said that when viewed from the sky, the entire Taixuan Sect resembles an intricate compass, with mysteries hidden in every mountain. As Cheng Xuanden explained, he could not help sighing. Regret appeared in his eyes. Guan asked, just how vast is the Taixuan Sect? They had already traveled for more than half a month, revealing just how far the Medicine Valley stood from this city. Boundless. Even I do not know its full extent. Cheng Xuanden continued toward the outer city, and Guan followed close behind. When Guan first joined the Taixuan Sect, he had never visited the outer city. Out of respect for Ji Xiaoyu, an elder of the sect had personally received her in a pavilion among the mountains. When Guan named the place he wished to go, the elder sent a disciple to escort him directly to Cheng Xuanden's Medicine Valley. This was Guan's first visit to the outer sect. The two walked to the city gates. Cheng Xuanden presented his identity token, and Guan caught sight of 2 characters engraved upon it, Mystic Valley. The moment they entered, a tremendous wave of noise and activity filled Guan's ears, surprising him. The city gate contained a restriction. Even with his hearing, he had been unable to detect any sound from inside while standing beyond the walls. High-quality medicinal herbs. First come, first served. Only 10 plants available today. Treasures recovered from the cave residence of a nascent soul great cultivator. Come and take a look. Pure-blooded snow mountain spirit fox. Raise it for another 5 years, and it will learn to speak. Treasure picking. 10 low-grade spirit stones per item. What you uncover depends entirely on your fortune. Map to the cave residence of an ancient great cultivator. Only those with sufficient strength should inquire. The cries of merchants on both sides drew Guan's attention. Pavilions and shops lined the broad streets. No disciples were permitted to spread stalls directly on the ground. Guan even saw a brothel. Impressive. As expected of a great Orthodox sect, Cheng Xuanden introduced various places as they walked, broadening Guan's horizons. No wonder so many people fought to enter the Taixuan Sect. Its cultivation resources were truly abundant. Guan did more than listen. He repeatedly used lifespan inspection. After walking only 2 li, he had already seen 5 cultivators whose maximum lifespans exceeded 500 years. The outer sect truly concealed dragons and crouching tigers. Half a shuchen later, Cheng Xuanden led Guan into a vast estate. 3 large characters hung above the entrance. Pill Hall. People streamed in and out of the Pill Hall. Some hurried with anxious expressions, some looked deeply troubled, and others laughed with complete ease. Guan followed Cheng Xuanden into a smaller courtyard to meet one of the Pill Hall's elders. Zhu Qinglu, a cultivator at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm, was one of the Pill Hall's elders. He supervised 51 medicine valleys and was Cheng Xuanden's direct superior. He had a heavy build and wore a loose green Taoist robe. A kindly smile rested on his face, making him appear entirely harmless. Inside the hall, Zhu Qinglu received Cheng Xuanden and ordered one of his disciples to pour tea. "Xuanden, how did your condition become this poor?" Zhu Qinglu asked with concern. Guan seized the opportunity to use lifespan inspection. Zhu Qinglu, 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm, 267-510. He was already 211 years old. Guan stood beside Cheng Xuanden and did not dare behave disrespectfully. Cheng Xuanden laughed. "I will not conceal it from you. My final tribulation is approaching. Apart from submitting the medicinal herbs, I came today because of this disciple of mine. I wish to pass the position of Mystic Valley's master to him." Zhu Qinglu looked at Guan and smiled. 3rd level of the Qi refining realm. It seems this child must possess qualities beyond the ordinary. Bah, what a refined way of calling him mediocre. Cheng Xuanden smiled. This child has an honest and kind nature. He can unite the disciples, and he is willing to remain in the Medicine Valley for life. He is the best possible candidate. Zhu Qinglu said no more. He raised a hand and a disciple entered from outside the hall. After the time needed for one incense stick to burn, Guan followed Cheng Xuanden out of the pill hall. He held a bronze identity token in his hand. 2 characters were engraved upon it, Mystic Valley. He could sense the aura of a restriction within the token. From this day forward, his official identity in the Taixuan Sect's pill hall was Master of Mystic Valley. The Valley Master's storage pouch is still with me. I will pass it down to you. Cheng Xuanden called from ahead, interrupting Guan's thoughts. Guan hurriedly asked, "Master, where are we going next?" He wanted to return. A batch of medicinal herbs was already ready for harvest, and he feared his junior brothers and sister might kindly pick them on his behalf. "Before we return, I will take you to the servant hall. You can recruit servant disciples there. Today, you may choose one and bring them back with us. Consider it a chance to familiarize yourself with the procedure." Cheng Xuanden replied without looking back. Guan watched the old man's back, complicated emotions rising in his heart. Every person possessed many sides, and Cheng Xuanden demonstrated that truth perfectly. In the past, Cheng Xuanden had treated his disciples coldly. Now Guan had learned that he had refined one of those disciples into a medicinal goo. He was also an agent of a demonic sect. No matter how one looked at it, he appeared to be a villain, yet his kindness toward Guan was genuine. The servant hall stood only a few streets from the pill hall. Its estate was even larger. The moment Guan stepped through the gates, he saw a vast square filled with people. Looking at the prospective disciples waiting to be selected, Guan finally realized how fortunate he had been. Without the Ji clan, someone with his spiritual root aptitude would have had to wait among these people and hope to be chosen before ever entering the Taixuan Sect. Look around for yourself. I will not interfere. Once you make your choice, I will take you to register the disciple, Cheng Xuanden said softly, rubbing his chest. He was clearly uncomfortable. Guan nodded and walked forward. Did he even need to judge them normally? Activate the golden finger. Guan began using lifespan inspection on everyone he passed. Most of the people here had extremely low maximum lifespans. Some were destined to die young. One person had only a single year left, yet still waited hopefully to be selected. Guan soon discovered a genius whose maximum lifespan exceeded 500 years. He did not choose immediately. He intended to inspect everyone first. The Medicine Valley did not need geniuses. What Guan wanted was someone with a long current lifespan. Maximum lifespan represented the ultimate limit a person might reach through cultivation. Reaching that limit was extraordinarily difficult and required countless opportunities. So many talented people were overlooked because spiritual root aptitude could not completely determine the heights a person might reach. Current lifespan was different. Unless someone suffered a grave injury, they could reasonably live for that many years. Before long, Guan's gaze locked onto a boy. He was a young monk with ordinary features, wearing old and tattered cloth robes. He sat cross-legged in a corner of the square. Wuxin, 2nd level of the Qi refining realm, 15-330-380. A Qi refining cultivator with a lifespan of 330 years? Extremely rare. Perhaps he possessed a special constitution or cultivated an unusual art. Guan walked directly to Wuxin. Sensing someone approach, the young monk opened his eyes and saw Guan's smiling face. "Little brother, would you be willing to come to my Medicine Valley? The work is normally not too demanding, and you will have ample time to cultivate," Guan asked with a gentle smile. Seeing that smile, Wuxin nodded almost unconsciously. Nearby, Cheng Xuanden examined Wuxin. He seemed to notice something. A moment later, he glanced at Guan with a strange expression. After being recruited, Wu Xin did not speak a single word until they left the servant hall. From beginning to end, he had only nodded once. Guan began to suspect that he had recruited a mute. To Wu Xin, becoming a servant disciple as soon as possible was the most important matter. Guan had given him an excellent first impression, so he agreed immediately. The reason he was so eager to become a servant disciple was that he was a spy from a demonic sect. He came from the Heavenly Autumn Pavilion and was the youngest son of one of its pavilion masters. Because his aptitude was inferior to that of his brothers, he had volunteered for a dangerous mission and come here as an agent. First, it allowed him to escape the oppressive environment of his family. Second, he could see whether he might earn merit. If he failed, then so be it. Wu Xin looked at Guan and Cheng Xuanden ahead and formed an initial judgment of the two. One was kind-hearted, an ordinary and simple cultivator. The other was an old man with one foot, already in the grave. According to them, the Medicine Valley was truly leisurely. The atmosphere there should be excellent. Heavy snow filled the sky. Mystic Valley lay beneath a boundless sheet of white, as though heaven and earth had been reduced to a single color. Bang! Wu Xin was knocked onto the snow. Powder sprayed across his face as he clutched his chest in pain. Lu Jujia, why are you taking this so seriously? Yi Lan scolded from the side. Standing on the snow, Lu Jujia slowly withdrew his leg. He raised his chin and said, "If we are sparring, we should be serious. Only then can we improve." His cultivation had reached the 5th level of the Qi refining realm, making him the strongest person in the Medicine Valley on the surface. Yi Lan was at the 4th level, while Xiaoshuan, like Gu An, appeared to be at the 3rd. Wu Xin was only at the 2nd level of Qi refining and could not resist Lu Jujia at all. Damn it! How can a servant disciple be this strong? Wu Xin's confidence nearly collapsed. He had seen Lu Jujia practicing a kicking technique and could not resist testing himself. He had never expected Lu Jujia to defeat him using only his legs. What Wu Xin did not know was that Lu Jujia possessed an excellent senior brother. Over the years, Guan had spent time sparring with him every day. Lu Jujia attacked with everything he had and never once managed to win. Day after day, his kicking technique became extraordinarily refined, and his physical strength grew far beyond the ordinary. Wu Xin refused to believe it, and decided that he had simply been careless. He rose and charged Lu Jujia again. Bong bong! Lu Jujia kicked twice in succession and sent Wu Xin crashing to the ground once more. Wu Xin felt as though his arms were about to break. At 15 years old, he lay face down in the snow while tears of humiliation ran down his face. How had things become like this? This was completely different from the life of espionage he had imagined. Even if he failed to cross mountains of blades and seas of fire, he should at least have lost while stealing intelligence. Instead, he had been defeated by a servant disciple who looked ordinary in every respect. If I had not cultivated this art, with my talent, how could I ever have suffered such humiliation? Wu Xin clenched both fists. The argument between Yi Lan and Lu Jujia sounded unusually piercing in his ears. Lu Jujia looked at Yi Lan and said unhappily, "He's a boy, not some fragile little girl. Stop favoring him." "When senior brother kicked me down, why didn't you speak up then?" Yi Lan glared at him. "How did I not speak up? I defended you, and you snapped at me. Besides, senior brother never used brute force the way you did. Think carefully. Didn't he wait until you had displayed your entire kicking technique before defeating you gently? You relied on strength and attacked recklessly. What could junior brother Wu Xin possibly learn from sparring with you like that?" Lu Jujia's displeased expression immediately changed. He thought back carefully and realized she was right. Because Guan always allowed him to use everything he had, each sparring session gave him new ideas. Being crushed one-sidedly taught a person nothing. Lu Jujia felt ashamed and became even more grateful to Guan. Senior brother truly treated him far too well. Yi Lan helped Wu Xin to his feet. Seeing his reddened eyes, she quickly comforted him. "Don't hold it against him. He wanted to help you and thought a serious spar would allow both of you to improve. He is simply too earnest by nature." Seeing Wu Xin's red eyes, Lu Jujia scratched his head in embarrassment. "Jujia, your kicking technique seems to have improved. Come and practice with me." A gentle voice came from behind. Lu Jujia turned and saw Guan approaching with a warm smile, like a spring breeze. Lu Jujia immediately nodded with excitement. His confidence had been soaring lately, and he felt that he might finally be able to defeat senior brother. Yi Lan and Wu Xin both looked toward Guan. Wu Xin was secretly curious. Was this senior brother truly so formidable that he could cross 2 minor realms and defeat Lu Jujia? Guan stopped and beckoned. Lu Jujia grinned, then crossed the distance with a single long stride. Bang! Lu Jujia was sent flying more than 10 meters, carving a long trench through the snow. His vision blurred and he nearly lost consciousness. It felt as though his internal organs had shifted out of place. The pain was unbearable. Wu Xin stared in shock. What terrifying speed! He had not even seen how Guan moved his leg. Yilan smiled brightly and hurried to Guan's side, praising senior brother's kicking technique for becoming faster and faster. Guan rubbed her head, then looked at Wu Xin. Wu Xin, would you like to learn a kicking technique in the future? Wu Xin's maximum lifespan was higher than the others, making him a potential genius. Guan could not allow Lu Jujia to kick him into permanent disability. Yes, Wu Xin answered loudly and firmly without his usual weakness. In the distance, Lu Jujia began groaning, drawing Guan's attention. Guan walked over, looked down at him, and said softly, "Stop pretending. Senior brother has a question for you. Did you enjoy sparring like this?" Lu Jujia lay face down, turned slightly to look at Guan with one eye, and saw the seriousness on his face. He closed his eye again and said miserably, "Senior brother, I was wrong." Guan pulled him to his feet and brushed the snow from his clothes with one hand. A true expert is not someone who defeats a stronger opponent. A true expert is someone who can control their own arrogance and refrain from bullying those weaker than themselves. Lu Jujia rubbed his chest and seriously considered Guan's words. Yilan and Wu Xin heard them as well. Wu Xin in particular felt deeply shaken. He had never imagined that a small medicine valley could conceal such a profound expert. In the Heavenly Autumn Pavilion, it was normal for the strong to bully the weak. Because Wu Xin was weak, even his father and brothers oppressed him. That's right, they cannot be called true experts at all. The way Wu Xin looked at Guan changed completely. "For now, teach Wu Xin the kicking technique," Guan said, patting Lu Jujia's shoulder. Lu Jujia hurriedly nodded and did not dare refuse. Afterward, Guan led Yilan up the mountain to inspect seeds that had recently been planted. Xiaoshuan was already working there. As for Cheng Xuandun, after returning, he had locked himself inside his room and refused to come out. Guan had visited once. Cheng Xuandun said he was recuperating, and from that point onward, Guan did not dare disturb him again. Life continued in that manner. Wu Xin's arrival made the Medicine Valley livelier. Lu Jujia and Xiaochuan enjoyed teasing him, and the sounds of the three laughing and quarreling occasionally echoed throughout the valley. At the end of the year, night descended. Swan sat in his room reading. He was no longer looking through the Azure Hero's travels, but another book titled Secret History of the Heavenly Autumn Pavilion. The book had come from the Medicine Valley's library. Guan had no idea whether its contents were true, but he treated it as entertainment. The flame of the oil lamp flickered softly. Cold wind slipped through the cracks around the window. Guan, now at the 6th level of the Foundation Establishment realm, remained entirely unaffected. After finishing the page, he set the book down and prepared to leave for his daily cultivation plan. Suddenly, he heard faint movement from the neighboring room. Someone stepped outside with extreme care, but the sound could not escape his hearing. It was Wu Xin. Guan was thoroughly familiar with the aura of everyone in the Medicine Valley and recognized him immediately. He silently followed Wu Xin's footsteps with his hearing. Wu Xin headed toward the library, entered the building, and began searching through books. What is he looking for? Guan was filled with curiosity. In his impression, Wu Xin was honest and dutiful. He completed every task Guan assigned without complaint, unlike Lu Jiojia, who occasionally tried to slack off. In addition to being reliable, Wu Xin was nearly as competitive as Lu Jiojia. From time to time, he sought out his two senior brothers to spar. Sometimes he won, and sometimes he lost. Could the boy be looking for a secret manual? Thinking of that possibility, Guan felt sympathy for his youngest junior brother. Starting tomorrow, he would personally teach him. Wu Xin searched for nearly half a shichen before quietly returning to his room. A short while later, Guan rose and silently left his own room. He intended to reach a forest more than 10 li away and carry out his daily cultivation plan. Another summer arrived. Guan had turned 22, and his lifespan had exceeded 4,000 years. He planned to accumulate more than 10,000 years before spending any of it again. Nearly half a year had passed. Through his daily plan, his cultivation had successfully reached the 7th level of the Foundation Establishment realm, though his visible realm remained at the 3rd level of Qi refining. As time passed, Guan grew increasingly curious about the 7th grade spirit tree Cheng Xuandun had mentioned. He had tried searching for it, but no matter what he did, he could not find the underground entrance. Wu Xin also searched the surrounding area late at night from time to time. On one occasion, the two nearly encountered one another. Fortunately, Guan's hearing was exceptional, allowing him to notice Wu Xin in advance. Near noon one day, Guan crouched beneath a tree and studied his white spirit rat. The rat was running in frantic circles before him, unusually energetic. Has it finally matured? But spring has clearly already passed. Guan had raised it for several years, yet its size had never changed. Li Ya was no longer here, so Guan had no way to judge the white spirit rat's stage of growth. The little creature had been circling him for half the day. As though it understood his words, the rat suddenly leaped up, lightly bit his hand, then fled at tremendous speed. Guan felt no pain and did not become angry. He followed it with his eyes and saw the rat stop again before spinning in place. Wait, could it be? Realizing something, Guan hurriedly stood and walked toward it. The moment he approached, the white spirit rat stopped circling and ran directly into the mountains. Man and rat quickly disappeared into the forest. Wu Xin stood beneath a tree and watched Guan leave. He frowned and thought, the mountains again. Lu Jiujia said Li Ya and Meng Lang both used to enter the forest alone to cultivate. Senior brother's kicking technique is far more powerful than his displayed cultivation. Could there be some secret hidden in these mountains? The more Wu Xin considered it, the more likely it seemed. He did not follow immediately. Instead, he decided to wait until night and secretly investigate. Elsewhere, Guan followed the white spirit rat across ridges and streams, leaving the Medicine Valley once again. Remarkable. Did this tiny rat normally roam across such a vast area? Guan realized that he had underestimated it, and his curiosity about their destination grew stronger. Li Ya had once said that white spirit rats were also called treasure-seeking rats. Could it have found the 7th grade spirit tree? Guan had truly underestimated the creature's range. He followed it for more than 10 li, yet it still did not stop. The farther they traveled from Mystic Valley, the less enthusiastic he became. Although he had previously traveled to the outer sect, he had only followed a single known route. With Mystic Valley as the center, Guan felt danger would increase once he traveled beyond 20 li, even though he had already reached the 7th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. Fortunately, the white spirit rat did not continue indefinitely. It stopped nearly 20 li from Mystic Valley. They were still amid the mountains. A small stream flowed down from the slopes. The white spirit rat stood beside the water and began circling again. Guan approached. Flowers and grass grew thickly along both banks, and stones of every size were scattered around. He caught the white spirit rat, then swept his right leg across the ground. Boom! Grass fragments exploded into the air, and stones flew in every direction. A single sweep cleared a broad patch of land. Looking carefully, Guan saw a square stone slab beside the stream. Unexpected. Was it some kind of well cover? He sat before the slab. Mysterious patterns were carved across its surface. Whether they were characters or pictures, he had never seen anything like them. Thin traces of spiritual energy leaked from the edges. That was probably how the white spirit rat had found it. Foundation Establishment cultivators possessed divine sense. Divine sense was an invisible force that could neither be seen nor touched. When extended outward, it resembled opening a heavenly eye capable of penetrating matter and observing what lay within. Guan rarely used it, but that did not mean he lacked it. In fact, cultivators could begin training divine sense at the 7th level of the Qi refining realm. He gathered his divine sense and attempted to pierce the stone slab to inspect the space below. However, the moment his divine sense touched the slab, a mysterious force repelled it, causing his body to tremble. Such power? Even divine sense at the 7th level of the Foundation Establishment realm could not penetrate this restriction. Guan hesitated. With such a powerful seal, could an enormous danger be hidden below? Spiritual energy surged from within. Perhaps it was nourishing some heavenly treasure. Or perhaps someone was cultivating in seclusion beneath the stone. No, he could not act recklessly. He needed to observe the place for a while first. Guan released the white spirit rat, then moved the surrounding stones and weeds to cover the mysterious slab. Only after concealing it completely did he catch the rat again and turn back toward the valley. The white spirit rat squeaked repeatedly, but he ignored it. After returning to Mystic Valley, Guan mentioned the matter to no one, behaving as though he had never left. During the nights that followed, he continued carrying out his daily cultivation plan, while also visiting the area near the slab to observe it. Night after night passed, yet the objects concealing the slab showed no sign of being disturbed. Guan also discovered that Wu Xin entered the mountains every night. Though he had no idea what the boy was searching for, he did not expose him. His instincts told him that Wu Xin's identity was not simple. A cultivator at the 2nd level of Qi refining possessing more than 300 years of lifespan had likely cultivated some extraordinary art. Guan once focused his divine sense on Wu Xin while the boy cultivated, but he detected nothing unusual. It appeared to be an ordinary process of absorbing spiritual energy. In that manner, the blazing summer passed. Mystic Valley gradually became covered in the pale colors of autumn. Guan had opened 17 additional gardens throughout the surrounding mountains. The workload increased considerably, forcing Xiaoshuan and the others to patrol every field once each day. One evening, Cheng Xuanden came to find Guan and signaled with his eyes for him to follow. Master and disciple walked toward the northern mountain ridge. Guan watched Cheng Xuanden's back with complicated emotions. The old man's lifespan had fallen again. His current age had become equal to his remaining lifespan, meaning that death was imminent. Although Cheng Xuanden had deceived him, The old man had genuinely done a great deal for Guan. Facing someone on the verge of death, Guan could not completely avoid feeling sorrow. He tried to convince himself not to become sentimental. He pursued the immortal path of longevity. In the future, he would experience countless partings between life and death. Sooner or later, he would grow accustomed to them. Of course, that required him to remain alive through all of them. Wu Xin was watering the gardens when he saw Guan and Cheng Shuanden leave together. He frowned. He silently memorized the direction they took. There was unquestionably some mystery hidden in that forest. Once they entered the mountains, Cheng Shuanden said, "I will take you to the underground entrance. You must never reveal this place to anyone, including your junior brothers and sister. They may be close to you today, but once they leave the Medicine Valley and gain experience outside, they will gradually become strangers." Guan did not argue. He had always understood that truth clearly. As long as Xiaoxiaoan and the others continued pursuing the outer sect, separation was inevitable. After hesitating, Guan asked, "Master, were you already a member of the Heavenly Autumn Pavilion from the beginning, or did they recruit you later?" Cheng Shuanden's steps had become heavier than before, he replied. "I experienced the same thing you are experiencing now. The identity was passed down through my master." Guan fell silent. He suddenly felt that Cheng Shuanden was also a pitiful man. "After I helped my master accomplish several tasks, I could no longer free myself from that identity. Even so, I do not regret it." Hearing this, Guan wanted to speak but stopped himself. He had not done anything for the Heavenly Autumn Pavilion yet. Was there still a chance for him to escape the mire? Cheng Shuanden began recounting the years he had spent with his own master. According to him, the old man had possessed an eccentric temperament, stern at times, yet at other moments as unrestrained as a child. From Cheng Shuanden's description, his master sounded like an old man who had never truly grown up. They circled behind the mountain ridge. Cheng Shuanden stopped before a cliff covered in moss and vines. "Master, is Grand Master still alive? Or has he already passed away?" Guan could not resist asking. He thought of the stone slab he had been observing. It was not far from Mystic Valley, and the master of Mystic Valley was a demonic agent. Guan had reason to suspect that Cheng Shuanden's master had left the slab behind. Cheng Shuanden replied, "Before sitting in death meditation, he bid me farewell and departed. I will follow his example. Tomorrow I will leave. Everything in the Medicine Valley will be entrusted to you." Guan frowned. He was not thinking about Cheng Shuanden, but about Cheng Shuanden's master. In other words, that man might still be alive. Cheng Shuanden took a compass from his sleeve. He pulled aside a patch of vines on the cliff, revealing a recess, then placed the compass inside it. As spiritual power flowed into the object, it began to tremble and emit a faint light. Guan clearly sensed Cheng Shuanden's aura growing weaker. He could not help worrying that the old man might suddenly die on the spot. The cliff began to vibrate, though the sound was not loud. Soon an opening appeared in the rock. It was so low that Guan would have to bow his head to enter. "Go inside. I will wait for you here," Cheng Shuan said. Guan hesitated. "Master, please give me the compass. I will enter after you leave." Cheng Shuan smiled faintly, removed the compass, and handed it to him. A stone door appeared inside the opening and sealed the passage once more. The cliff returned to a seamless state, showing no sign that an entrance had ever existed. Cheng Shuanden turned and began descending the mountain. Guan followed behind. The underground space contains a complete formation of its own. In the future, if you wish to grow spiritual herbs or flowers without allowing anyone else to know, you may use that place. Cheng Shuanden said softly, sounding as though he were delivering his final instructions. Guan listened carefully. His emotions remained deeply conflicted. He was grateful for everything Cheng Shuanden had done, yet a trace of vigilance remained in the depths of his heart. Until everything reached its final conclusion, he could not relax. Cheng Shuanden was about to die in any case. Guan could lower his guard after that. In the future, he would burn incense for Cheng Shuanden every year. At that time, he would respect him properly. Their descent was very slow. Cheng Shuanden spoke quietly, explaining everything he knew about the underground area. Guan listened with complete attention. The old man's account contained far too many details to sound fabricated. By the time they returned to the Medicine Valley, darkness had fully descended. Cheng Shuanden gave Guan one final sentence. "The road of life is long and vast. Ordinary aptitude can sometimes be a blessing. You are free to do what you truly wish." Guan watched him return to the pavilion. Even after the door closed, Guan remained standing where he was, lost in thought. Nearly half a shechin passed before he finally returned to his own courtyard. His junior brothers were cultivating in their rooms, leaving the courtyard completely silent. Guan cultivated throughout the night. Near dawn, he heard Cheng Shuanden's footsteps. He went to the window and saw the old man descending from the pavilion. Cheng Shuanden walked with a slow and steady gait. He did not look toward Guan. After reaching the ground, he headed directly for the valley entrance. Guan watched his back disappear beyond the mouth of the valley and remained at the window. As sunlight rose above the eastern mountain, the first ray of morning crossed the peak and fell upon Guan, stretching his shadow behind him. When Xiao Xuan, Lu Jiujia, Ye Lan, and Wu Xin woke one after another, they all felt that something about the Medicine Valley was wrong. They soon realized what had changed. At this hour, senior brother normally led them through their morning exercises. The body-tempering routine called Young Eagles Takes Flight truly contained its own subtle mysteries. Guan had never allowed rain or wind to interrupt the practice, yet today he did not appear. Only at noon did he finally gather everyone and announce that Cheng Xuanden had left. From this day forward, Guan was the master of the Medicine Valley. Xiao Xuan and the other two were deeply affected and repeatedly asked where Cheng Xuanden had gone. After Li Ya left, Cheng Xuanden had become much gentler and treated his disciples extremely well, leaving them with an excellent impression of him. Only Wu Xin felt no profound attachment. After half a shichen of noise and questioning, the junior disciples finally dispersed. Guan climbed to the mountaintop and looked toward the distant direction Cheng Xuanden had taken. Only when there was no longer any possibility of seeing his figure did Guan enter Cheng Xuanden's room. The pill furnace remained. On the table beside it lay numerous objects, a storage pouch, a letter, many keys, and even a pot containing a spiritual flower. Guan picked up the letter. Its contents were simple. I know only that you enjoy harvesting flowers and herbs. Before leaving, I have left this 5th grade tiger blood flower for you to harvest. Consider it my farewell gift. Guan smiled, then picked up the storage pouch. This was the object that interested him most. How could a cultivator live without a storage pouch? He began examining the inheritance Cheng Xuanden had left behind. Guan did not leave Cheng Xuanden's pavilion until evening. A purple pouch now hung at his waist. The storage Cheng Xuanden had left behind. He headed toward the northern mountain ridge and went directly to the underground entrance in the cliff. Taking the compass from the storage pouch, he placed it into the recess in the stone. A deep rumble sounded, and an opening appeared before him. Guan removed the compass, bowed his head, and entered. After only 5 steps, the tunnel suddenly widened as the entrance began closing behind him. Once it had sealed completely, Guan continued along the passage. With divine sense at the 7th level of the Foundation Establishment realm, he could move as though it were daylight. The tunnel presented no obstacle, and it grew wider the farther he traveled, seemingly without end. Guan became increasingly curious about Cheng Xuanden's master. What kind of extraordinary person could have created such a massive underground passage? The tunnel curved downward and extended for more than 10 li, yet Guan still had not reached its end. He could now confirm that the space beneath the mysterious stone slab connected to this underground network. A breeze rich with spiritual energy blew from ahead, brushing across Guan's face and refreshing his mind. Light gradually appeared within the tunnel. Crystals of many different colors had been embedded into the walls. Guan carefully sensed them, then felt disappointed when he realized they were not spirit stones. If every crystal had been a spirit stone, he would have become unimaginably wealthy. Guan continued forward while keeping every sense tense. Although Cheng Xuanden had treated him well until the end, Guan could not forget what the old man had done to Meng Lang. What if everything had been an elaborate performance? After several more li, the tunnel ahead became brilliantly illuminated. Guan heard flowing water. He had reached the exit. Moving cautiously, he approached the opening and looked into the underground space beyond. His eyes immediately widened. "This is," Guan murmured, joy appearing in his gaze. Before him spread an enormous underground world, several times larger than Mystic Valley. The ground lay more than 100 zhang below the vaulted ceiling. At the center stood a gigantic tree more than 100 meters tall. Its trunk required over 10 people joining hands to encircle it. The crown was not especially dense, but lantern-like fruits hung from the branches, translucent and glowing with blue light. A thick meadow surrounded the tree. Along the edge of the underground space, against the rock wall, flowed an underground river 2 zhang wide. Azure Vine Tree, 7th grade, 245 9099 87,600. A maximum lifespan of 87,600 years. Nearly 10,000 years of obtainable lifespan. The moment Guan saw the information, he felt a powerful urge to uproot the tree. He forced himself to resist. According to Cheng Xuanden, this 7th grade spirit tree was the core of the underground formation. It presided over the entire array, allowing the other heavenly treasures to grow freely. In turn, the spiritual energy gathered by those treasures strengthened the formation and nourished the 7th grade tree. If Guan uprooted the Azure Vine Tree, he would lose a nursery with nearly limitless potential. At the same time, this place could become his private cave residence. Cheng Xuanden's master had arranged numerous formations. Cultivation and breakthroughs performed here would not create disturbances outside. Guan swept his gaze around. Dozens of unusual stone statues had been embedded into the cavern walls in every direction. Special runes lay between them, profound and mysterious. He stepped through the opening. Immediately, he noticed an upright stone tablet beside the entrance. 4 characters were carved upon it. 8 Sceneries Cave Heaven. Guan glanced at the name and continued deeper inside. Along the way, he repeatedly used lifespan inspection. 3rd grade and 4th grade spiritual herbs and flowers covered the ground. The closer they grew to the Azure Vine Tree, the higher their grades became, leaving him dazzled. Cheng Xuanden had hidden such an enormous treasury and still failed to reach foundation establishment? Guan did not know whether to pity the old man's terrible aptitude or his insufficient alchemy skill. Even if his alchemy had been inadequate, he could have sold a portion of the herbs for spirit stones, or hired one of the Taixuan Sect's alchemists to refine pills for him. In Guan's view, a sect like the Taixuan Sect could create a foundation establishment cultivator without much difficulty if sufficient resources were available. Of course, another possibility existed. Cheng Xuanden might have feared exposing his identity. Guan reached the base of the Azure Vine Tree. Standing beneath it, he could feel its majestic presence and overflowing vitality even more clearly. He circled the tree and discovered that the 8 Sceneries Cave Heaven possessed not 1 passage, but 8. He suspected one of them connected to the stone slab he had discovered. For now, he had no intention of exploring the other tunnels. He turned back, took the 100 Herbs Compendium from his storage pouch, and began identifying the plants one by one. If they were mature, he would harvest them immediately. He could take a portion to the outer sect, exchange them for higher-grade seeds, and maintain long-term development. The thought filled Guan with energy. Half a Shichen passed quickly. He harvested more than 133rd-grade herbs, gaining over 900 years of lifespan and pushing his total beyond 5,000 years. Being branded a demonic spy was proving extremely profitable. Guan's mood soared. The 8 Sceneries Cave Heaven contained an enormous quantity of medicinal plants. He had harvested only 1/10 of them, and even those were merely the lowest-grade plants in the cavern. From this day forward, this place would be his cave residence and secret base. Just as Guan bent to harvest another plant, he heard movement. He immediately turned toward a distant tunnel. The entrance was pitch black and looked deeply ominous. Guan moved to the side. Not everything in the meadow was a medicinal plant. Ordinary grass also grew there. Suspecting that a battle might be approaching, he repositioned himself to ensure that no valuable herbs would be damaged. Those plants were his lifespan. Guan moved toward the underground river, keeping his gaze fixed on the dark tunnel. Heavy footsteps and rough breathing soon came from within, as though a wild beast were about to charge out. A bare foot emerged from the darkness. When Guan saw the figure clearly, he frowned. Meng Lang again. His hair was disheveled, his clothes torn, and both feet bare. Bloody patterns covered his neck. His face was red as though it had been heated in a furnace. Blood filled his eyes and white vapor poured from his mouth. Roar! Meng Lang bellowed at Guan and charged. His speed was astonishing, and the distance between them rapidly vanished. Rather than retreat, Guan stepped forward and rushed to meet him. Grass fragments scattered as the two closed on one another. Meng Lang leaped and tried to seize Guan. Guan turned sideways and drove a knee into his abdomen, sending him flying backward. Guan's frown deepened. His right thigh trembled slightly. Impressive. How had Meng Lang's body become so tough? Guan felt that even the Greed Wrath demon had not been this durable. Although he had neither used full strength nor spiritual power, the impact still allowed him to make a rough comparison. He had deliberately restrained himself to see whether Meng Lang could stand again. Guan shook out his right leg and charged once more. Meng Lang had fallen onto the meadow, but he seemed incapable of feeling pain. He immediately rose and threw himself at Guan again. Guan planted his right foot to halt his momentum, then raised his left leg. Spiritual power gathered within it as he unleashed the Raging Gale Shadowless Kick. A violent wind erupted. Kick shadows struck Meng Lang one after another and hurled him away again. After hitting the ground, he rolled more than a dozen times before stopping. His limbs were visibly twisted. He tried to rise but collapsed a moment later, his forehead striking the grass. Guan lowered his leg, curiosity appearing on his face. Was Cheng Xuanden's medicinal goo really this formidable? It was only first grade, yet its body already felt no weaker than the Greed Wrath demon. How could Cheng Xuanden compare with the great cultivator who had stood behind that demon? Guan became increasingly certain that Cheng Xuanden had concealed important matters, probably connected to his own master. He approached Meng Lang and looked down at his monstrous body, hesitating over how to handle him. He is already dead. Why should I care about the identity he possessed while alive? Guan's eyes flickered. Grass fragments and dust around his feet began rotating slowly, revealing that he was circulating his art. At that moment, he noticed the corner of a book protruding from Meng Lang's robe. He extended a hand and pulled with spiritual power. The book flew through the air into his palm. Myriad Gu Profound Art, Guan murmured the title and quickly leafed through it. It was a cultivation art, but only an incomplete volume. The final page ended abruptly, clearly missing the remainder. In addition to the cultivation method at the front, the latter half recorded 5 Gu arts, each accompanied by an illustration. Guan compared them carefully, and eventually found the one that had been used on Meng Lang, Flame Corpse Gu. Those infected nurture flame qi within their bodies. Their flesh becomes firm as deep stone, and their strength grows immense. No medicine can save them, and no art can dispel the Gu. It continues until the flesh decays and the bones collapse. After reading the description, Guan looked toward Meng Lang with sympathy. Truly pitiful. The Myriad Gu Profound Art recorded a method for suppressing the Flame Corpse Gu. As long as the 7 apertures were sealed, preventing the Gu insect from consuming spiritual energy, it would enter a state resembling death. The Gu corpse would then become incapable of movement. Guan immediately used mud to seal Meng Lang's 7 apertures. Afterward, he stood and looked toward the tunnel from which Meng Lang had emerged. He did not enter to investigate. Instead, he stored the Myriad Gu Profound Art inside his storage pouch and turned back to continue harvesting medicinal herbs. Even if Cheng Xuanden's master was still alive, the fact that the man had not acted against Guan, who appeared to be only a qi-refining cultivator, meant either that he held no killing intent or that he was unable to move. In that case, why alert the snake by striking the grass? The more time passed, the more advantageous it would be for Guan. Half a shichen later, he left the 8 Sceneries Grotto Heaven in complete satisfaction. His lifespan had reached an astonishing 7,000 years. He had harvested every mature 3rd-grade herb. Next, he would sow new seeds and wait for them to grow, which would require many years. Once the 3rd-grade herbs were harvested, the 4th-grade plants would come next. To avoid damaging the formation's ecosystem, Guan did not harvest every mature plant at once. He harvested part and replanted part. Only that approach could ensure efficient, long-term development. Moreover, even after a medicinal herb matured, he could leave it growing. The longer it lived, the more lifespan he could seize from it. Naturally, there had to be some limit. Guan was still observing where that limit lay. Early the next morning, Guan, the newly appointed master of Mystic Valley, left his room and immediately called for his junior brothers to come outside. After hearing Xiaoshuan respond, he walked toward Yilan's courtyard. "Junior sister, it is time to come out," Guan called. "Coming, senior brother," Yilan answered quickly, even more eagerly than the junior brothers. Before long, everyone stood before Guan. He looked across the group and smiled. "Congratulations. From now on, all of you will become martial uncles and a martial aunt. When I recruit new servant disciples, they will be my own disciples and your martial nephews." The moment he said this, everyone became excited and began discussing the future. No one mentioned Cheng Xuanden. It was not because they were cold or ungrateful. They had quietly agreed among themselves not to mention him during the coming month. Guan encouraged them with a few words, then led them through their morning exercises to loosen their muscles and bones. Afterward, he still needed to return to the 8 Sceneries Grotto Heaven and plant flowers and herbs. The coming days would be busy. Inside the 8 Sceneries Grotto Heaven, light from the Azure Vine Tree's fruits illuminated the cavern walls. Ripples from the underground river reflected across the stone, making the Grotto Heaven appear both tranquil and strangely beautiful. Guan walked beneath the Azure Vine Tree, turned around, placed both hands on his hips, and admired the fields he had carefully cultivated. A satisfied smile appeared on his face. Every measure of labor brought a measure of harvest. Cultivating immortality while farming. This was the romance he pursued. Slaughter, conflict, and internal struggles could all stay far away from him. Guan felt thoroughly content. His gaze shifted elsewhere. He considered building a pavilion inside the Grotto Heaven. In the future, whenever he had free time, he could hide here and rest. He was still young now, but after another 50 or 60 years, he could imitate Cheng Xuanden, assign all daily matters to his senior disciple, and enjoy life for himself. Of course, it was still too early to choose that senior disciple. Nascent Valley was his foundation, and he had to find someone suitable. The first disciple he accepted would not automatically possess the ability to manage everything. Plans formed in Guan's mind. First, he needed to cultivate a deputy valley master. Xiaoshuan was worth considering. His aptitude was poor, and he was honest, but he spoke too rigidly and lacked flexibility in dealing with people. Lu Jiujia would enter the outer sect sooner or later and could be eliminated immediately. Yilan, no. He should send her outside as early as possible, lest she destroy his Dao heart. Wu Jin required further observation. He still needed to recruit more disciples. While thinking, Guan raised his head. He was extremely curious about the Azure Vine Tree's fruit. Some heavenly treasures took the form of fruit. If he harvested only the fruit rather than the tree itself, could he still gain lifespan? There was only one way to find out. Guan lightly leaped upward, reached for a fruit, and plucked it from the branch. He landed on the meadow and examined it in his hands. The fruit was roughly the size of an ordinary pumpkin and weighed approximately 7 or 8 jin. Guan took a spirit preservation talisman from his storage pouch and wrapped it around the long stem at the top, preventing spiritual energy from leaking away and reducing its value. That was money. Around 10 breaths later, a line of text appeared before him. You successfully harvested 1 Azure Vine fruit, 6th grade, and obtained 85 years of lifespan. Impressive. 85 years of lifespan. The way Guan looked at the Azure Vine Tree changed completely. This was truly a money tree. He absolutely could not uproot it. He had to let it live to old age and worship it properly in the future. Guan became excited. He placed the fruit into his storage pouch, then counted the mature fruits on the tree. There were 16 fruits as large as the one he had harvested. The smaller ones were not yet ready to be touched. He immediately began working. Some fruits hung extremely high, forcing him to climb the tree. At that moment, he desperately longed to learn sword flight. Foundation establishment cultivators still could not fly directly through the air, and Guan possessed no other method of sustained flight or levitation. After considerable effort, he successfully harvested all 16 Azure Vine fruits, gaining a total of 1,360 years of lifespan. His total lifespan reached 8,400 years. He was drawing ever closer to the threshold of 10,000. Come on, finish it in one effort. Once his lifespan reached 10,000 years, he could accumulate cultivation, explore the remaining 7 tunnels, investigate them completely, and remove every hidden danger. Then he could enjoy peaceful years without concern. Once Gwen formed a plan, he acted immediately. The 8 Sceneries Grotto Heaven contained an abundance of medicinal herbs. He watched his attribute panel as he harvested, and intended to stop the moment his lifespan reached 10,000 years. Half a shichen later, a series of messages appeared before his eyes. Your lifespan has exceeded 10,000 years for the first time. Lifespan barrier has been activated. Lifespan barrier. Consume lifespan to create a barrier capable of concealing all observation, sensing, and divination. The amount of lifespan consumed will be determined by your cultivation aura and the quantity of spiritual energy you require. Oh? A lifespan barrier? The moment Guan saw the words consume lifespan, his brows tightened. Was this not asking him to burn away his own life? However, after reading the full explanation, joy immediately replaced his concern. His breakthrough to Foundation establishment had created such a tremendous disturbance. What would happen when he broke through to higher realms? If matters continued like that, he would eventually alarm the entire Taixuan Sect. Guan had worried about this for a long time. Now, he no longer needed to fear. This ability was overwhelmingly powerful. He loved it. Laughing, Guan walked toward the tunnel entrance. Once he reached the core formation realm, he would explore the other passages. Although the 8 Sceneries Grotto Heaven possessed formations, danger could still be hidden within. Therefore, he decided to break through outside and test the lifespan barrier at the same time. No matter what might be concealed here, he would no longer need to fear it after becoming stronger. By the time Gwen returned to the Medicine Valley, it was already late at night. He had moved into the pavilion Xianxia once occupied. Numerous secret manuals, pill recipes, and rare books remained there, and he intended to read them one by one in the future. Guan entered the room and approached a wooden cabinet. It had been crafted from a special kind of wood capable of preserving the spiritual energy of heavenly treasures to the greatest possible extent. Xianxia had previously explained this to him, and several similar cabinets stood throughout the room. Guan removed all the Azure Vine fruits and placed them inside. Then he suddenly thought of something, took one fruit back out, and set it on the table. Sitting down, he drew Secret History of the Heavenly Autumn Pavilion from inside his robe and began reading quietly. Only after midnight did the white spirit rat finally return. It ran directly onto Guan's shoulder, its tiny eyes fixed on the Azure Vine fruit on the table. Guan gently picked it up, placed it beside the fruit, and waited to see what it would do. He did not know what miraculous effects the Azure Vine fruit possessed. The 100 Herbs Compendium contained no records of heavenly treasures above the 4th grade, so he could only use the white spirit rat as a test. He allowed the spirit beast to choose for itself. If the fruit was poisonous, it should be able to smell the danger. If it failed to notice the poison, Guan would give it a proper burial. The Azure Vine fruit was 10 times larger than the white spirit rat. The little creature struggled to gnaw through it, but Guan offered no help. Waiting quickly became boring. He might as well break through tonight. Guan rose, left the pavilion, and silently departed Mystic Valley. He traveled west across mountains and streams for nearly 20 li, First, he leaped onto the crown of a large tree and surveyed every direction. Only after confirming that no cultivator or aura was nearby, did he find a grassy clearing in the mountains and sit cross-legged. It had been a long time since he last burned lifespan so extravagantly. The anticipation was intoxicating. With the lifespan barrier available, Guan could evolve his cultivation without concern. I'll invest 1,000 years first and see how far it carries me. Guan felt absurdly wealthy. With 10,000 years of lifespan, what did spending 1,000 matter? It was merely a drop in the ocean. He invested 1,000 years into evolving his cultivation. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 30 years. Your cultivation broke through to the 8th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 100 years. Your cultivation broke through to the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 150 years. Using your profound mastery of the divine wood pure yang art, you forcibly attempted to enter the core formation realm and began undergoing tribulation. You failed to survive the minor heavenly tribulation. The breakthrough failed. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 200 years. Using your profound mastery of the divine wood pure yang art, you forcibly attempted to enter the core formation realm and began undergoing tribulation. You failed to survive the minor heavenly tribulation. The breakthrough failed. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 450 years. Using your profound mastery of the divine wood pure yang art, you forcibly attempted to enter the core formation realm and began undergoing tribulation. You successfully survived the minor heavenly tribulation, condensed a golden core, and entered the core formation realm. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 500 years. Your cultivation broke through to the 2nd level of the core formation realm. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 600 years. Your cultivation broke through to the 3rd level of the core formation realm. Oh. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 720 years. Your cultivation broke through to the 4th level of the core formation realm. Oh. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 850 years. Your cultivation broke through to the 5th level of the core formation realm. Oh. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 1,000 years. Your cultivation broke through to the 6th level of the core formation realm. Oh. Messages appeared frantically before Guan's eyes. When he saw 6 consecutive tribulation failures, he nearly forgot to breathe. Was his luck truly that terrible? Was undergoing tribulation really so difficult? The instant the final message appeared, his body began circulating the art automatically. Guan immediately sensed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth preparing to erupt. He hurriedly activated the lifespan barrier. Lifespan barrier activated. Lifespan consumed, 0 years. The moment spiritual energy began surging into his body, the number 0 immediately changed to 1. I hope the cost isn't too high. Guan prayed silently. Vast spiritual energy poured into him. His entire body felt open and unobstructed, filled with an indescribable pleasure. This time, he remained seated during the breakthrough and felt no pain. Centered on his body, waves of energy appeared across the ground and rushed inward from every direction. An invisible dome nearly 5 zhang in diameter could be faintly perceived around him. Guan looked beyond the barrier. Not even a breeze stirred outside. The flowers, grass, and trees remained perfectly peaceful, completely unaffected by him. He immediately wondered why. The answer soon became clear. Once the barrier opened, his cultivation began drawing spiritual energy from beneath the earth. Guan finally relaxed completely. Before long, his cultivation reached the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. The barrier had already consumed 5 years of lifespan, which made his heart ache. This thing was expensive. It reminded him of the mobile games he had played in his previous life. There was only one word for it: predatory. While Guan cursed silently, he suddenly noticed flashes of light over the distant mountains. Narrowing his eyes, he could vaguely see cultivators fighting. 10 li away, Xianxia hovered above the forest and swung his sword, releasing streams of sword chi like a violent tornado. Leaves scattered through the air. Li Ya, dressed in black, stood atop a tree with his sword raised before him. Powerful force erupted from his body and formed the image of a pale golden bell, blocking every strand of Xianxia's sword chi. Xianxia's black hair whipped wildly in the wind. An arrogant, savage smile appeared on his face. Li Ya, is that all you're capable of? With such meager skill, you still wish to oppose His Highness the 4th Prince? Do you truly believe you can survive long enough to enter the inner sect? Li Ya's expression remained cold. His gaze flickered toward Mystic Valley. No. If the battle continued here, it would alert everyone in the Medicine Valley. Li Ya did not wish to bring trouble to Guan and the others. He swung his sword, shattered the incoming sword chi, then flew in the direction opposite Mystic Valley. Xianxia pursued without hesitation. The two rode their swords into the distance and quickly disappeared beyond the night horizon. Inside the lifespan barrier, Guan could not see the distant cultivators clearly. Fortunately, the flashes of light soon vanished. He still did not dare relax. The barrier prevented observation, sensing, and divination, but that did not mean he had physically disappeared. What if someone accidentally walked directly into it? Time passed quickly amid Guan's anxiety. A golden core began condensing inside his body. When the barrier's consumption exceeded 50 years of lifespan, he successfully entered the core formation realm. Although the lifespan barrier consumed a great deal, the cost remained within a range Guan could accept. Before beginning, he had worried that it might drain his lifespan so aggressively that he would be emptied in an instant. Now, those concerns disappeared like smoke. A new thought arose. 1,000 years had carried him to the 6th level of core formation. Should he continue burning lifespan? A bird suddenly cried out in the silent night, and the mountains returned to stillness. Guan sat cross-legged inside the barrier and admired the moonlight. The moon was beautiful tonight, perfectly matching his mood. His actual cultivation had now reached the 4th level of the core formation realm, and continued approaching the final result of the evolution. He intended to keep spending lifespan until he reached the Nascent soul realm. After that, he would evolve another supreme art, because the Raging Gale shadowless kick could no longer satisfy him. What Nascent soul great cultivator relied entirely on kicking people? He needed a sword. Guan decided to favor the 7 swords of the Li family. If he possessed Nascent soul cultivation, he naturally required an offensive method worthy of that realm. For safety, he would assume that Cheng Xuanden's master was a Nascent soul great cultivator. Guan could only overestimate his opponent. That was how he reduced the chance of failure. The cultivators who had fought in the distance did not return, allowing Guan to relax completely. He was already a core formation cultivator, powerful enough to dominate the outer sect region. Even if someone suddenly appeared, they would not withstand a single kick from him. 5th level of the core formation realm. His cultivation increased again, and his divine sense grew correspondingly stronger. The difference between core formation and foundation establishment was like the separation between heaven and earth. The spiritual power was incomparable, and the difference in divine sense was equally vast. Guan could now condense his divine sense into a single point and unleash it as a powerful invisible impact. Only after reaching core formation did he finally feel like a true cultivator. If the core formation realm was already this extraordinary, how powerful would the Nascent soul realm be? Guan could hardly wait to burn more lifespan. He forced himself to wait until the evolution carried his cultivation to the 6th level of core formation before opening his attribute panel. His gaze was involuntarily drawn toward his spiritual roots. He had once tried strengthening them, only to feel that his investment had vanished into a bottomless abyss. The experience had left a psychological shadow, so he directed lifespan elsewhere. Besides, evolving cultivation arts could also strengthen spiritual root aptitude. Now that he was powerful and still possessed abundant lifespan, perhaps he should try improving his spiritual roots again. After the growth of his cultivation stopped, Guan immediately poured 2,000 years of lifespan into them. You invested 2,000 years of lifespan into your spiritual roots to evolve cultivation. You comprehended the natural world for 100 years. The sensitivity of your 5-element spiritual roots increased. You comprehended the natural world for 200 years. The sensitivity of your 5-element spiritual roots increased. You comprehended the natural world for 1,000 years and finally grasped a trace of heaven and earth's true meaning. Your spiritual roots were cleansed by heaven and earth, and the aptitude of your 5-element spiritual roots began transforming. All 5 reached the 2nd-rate mortal body grade, with the wood spiritual root standing above the others. You comprehended the natural world for 1,200 years. The sensitivity of your 5-element spiritual roots increased. You comprehended the natural world for 2,000 years, and finally grasped another trace of heaven and earth's true meaning. At the same time, you perceived the veins running through the earth. Your spiritual roots were cleansed by heaven and earth, and the aptitude of your 5-element spiritual roots began transforming. All 5 advanced to the 1st-rate mortal body grade, with the wood and earth spiritual roots standing above the others. Messages continued appearing before Guan. When he saw the earlier notifications concerning the 5-element spiritual roots, his heart began to bleed. He had been careless. This truly was a bottomless pit. Seeing that all 5 roots had ultimately reached the 1st-rate grade improved his mood somewhat, but the expense still hurt. After all, comprehending the divine wood pure yang art had already raised his wood spiritual root to 1st-rate. No, he could not think that way. The divine wood pure yang art had required 1,000 years merely to elevate a single spiritual root to the 1st-rate grade. Raising all 5 through separate cultivation arts might have required at least 5,000 years. Then again, why had he not simply cultivated 4 additional elemental arts? A person had to experiment before discovering the most perfect path. While Guan reflected, spiritual energy from the earth surged toward him once more. This time, it did not increase his cultivation. Instead, it tempered every tendon and bone in his body. Pain. Guan experienced agony unlike anything before and could only grit his teeth and endure. To distract himself, he began analyzing his attribute panel. Spiritual root aptitude appeared to be the most difficult thing to improve. That made sense. Spiritual root aptitude resembled maximum lifespan, while cultivation resembled current lifespan. Breaking an innate limit would naturally be the most difficult task. No amount of acquired effort could easily overturn a destiny fixed by heaven. This was also why the Taixuan Sect treated geniuses so generously. To the sect, Ji Xiaoyu and her dual spiritual roots were far more valuable than an ordinary core formation cultivator. For normal people, fewer spiritual roots generally meant greater aptitude. If the total talent represented by a person's spiritual roots equaled 100, someone with dual spiritual roots might possess 50 points in each. A person with 5 spiritual roots would have only 20 in each. Sometimes, being well-rounded was another form of mediocrity. Guan was different. By strengthening his spiritual root aptitude, he was raising that total value beyond 100. Unfortunately, he could not invest lifespan into individual elemental roots separately. At present, the other 4 roots contributed little to his cultivation of the divine wood pure yang art. His cultivation speed had increased, but only slightly. However, he noticed that the first-rate aptitude in the notifications carried the prefix mortal body. Could spirit bodies and sacred bodies exist above it? Guan's thoughts wandered as the barrier's lifespan consumption began slowing. From the beginning of the breakthrough until now, it had consumed 134 years. As his spiritual root aptitude improved, the different elemental forms of spiritual energy became increasingly distinct to his senses. His perception of the entire world began to change. The pain was gradually replaced by wonder. A long time later, Guan's body stopped absorbing spiritual energy. The spiritual root entry on his attribute panel had become first-rate 5-element spiritual roots. He did not stand. Instead, he poured 2,000 years of lifespan into his cultivation. The repeated tribulation failures had left a shadow in his heart, so he decided to invest heavily and force a miracle. If he spent only 1,000 years and became trapped at the 9th level of the core formation realm, he would probably cough blood from frustration. That outcome was entirely possible. After every failed tribulation, 50 years had to be wasted before another attempt could begin. It was painfully realistic. In actual cultivation, failing a tribulation would leave a person injured even if they survived. Recovery naturally required time. Moreover, the tribulation of the Nascent soul realm would unquestionably be more difficult. He would probably fail even more times, not fewer. Begin. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 100 years. Your cultivation broke through to the 7th level of the core formation realm. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 200 years. Your cultivation broke through to the 8th level of the core formation realm. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 300 years. Your cultivation broke through to the 9th level of the core formation realm. Oh. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 400 years. Using your profound mastery of the divine wood pure yang art, you forcibly attempted to enter the nascent soul realm and began undergoing tribulation. You failed to survive the 3 mysteries heavenly tribulation. Breakthrough failed. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 1,500 years. Using your profound mastery of the divine wood pure yang art, you forcibly attempted to enter the nascent soul realm and began undergoing tribulation. You failed to survive the 3 mysteries heavenly tribulation. The breakthrough failed. You cultivated by absorbing spiritual's energy for 1,600 years. Using your profound mastery of the divine wood pure yang art, you forcibly attempted to enter the nascent soul realm and began undergoing tribulation. You finally survived the 3 mysteries heavenly tribulation, completed the breakthrough, and advanced to the nascent soul realm. Oh, you cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 1,800 years. Your cultivation broke through to the 2nd level of the nascent soul realm. Oh, you cultivated by absorbing spiritual energy for 2,000 years. Your cultivation broke through to the 3rd level of the nascent soul realm. Damn it, he had failed 12 times. When Guan saw the 6th failure, his heart sank to the bottom of a valley. By the 10th, his vision nearly went dark. Fortunately, he succeeded in reaching the nascent soul realm in the end. Was breaking through to nascent soul truly this difficult? Guan felt emotionally drained. He finally understood why lifespan evolution consumed far more years than ordinary cultivation. Evolving cultivation was equivalent to practicing with nothing but one's bare body and talent. Normal cultivators used pills and formations to gather spiritual energy. Both could assist during tribulation, to say nothing of rare treasures with miraculous effects. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth surged toward him once again, and the barrier's lifespan consumption accelerated. Guan calmed himself and began enjoying the rise of his cultivation. The rising sun illuminated the mortal world. Mystic Valley gradually brightened. Guan stood atop a mountain and looked down upon the forests painted in brilliant autumn colors. His robes drifted in the wind, and sunlight covered his body, making him appear as though he might ascend into immortality at any moment. He had condensed a nascent soul and become a true nascent soul cultivator. As a reward to himself, he raised his visible cultivation by 1 level, allowing it to appear at the 4th level of the Qi refining realm. In the future, he would raise it by 1 level each year until reaching the 9th level, then remain there. That way, no one would transfer him elsewhere. Unable to resist, he opened his attribute panel again. Name: Guan. Lifespan: 22452s. Spiritual roots: first-rate 5-element spiritual roots, with the wood and earth attributes standing above the others. Lifespan may be invested to evolve cultivation. Cultivation: 3rd level of the nascent soul realm. Lifespan may be invested to evolve cultivation. Cultivation arts: fire control art, not yet mastered. Divine wood pure yang art, mastered to perfection. Dragon whale divine essence art, mastered to perfection. Alchemy: having only just found the path. Lifespan may be invested to evolve cultivation. Ultimate arts: Raging Gale Shadowless Kick, completely mastered. 7 Swords of the Li family, not yet mastered. 8 Directions Step, not yet mastered. Lifespan may be invested to evolve cultivation. In the future, Guan planned to invest some lifespan into the 7 Swords of the Li family. After that, he would resume accumulating lifespan and wait until he possessed 100,000 years before spending again. For now, he wanted to rest for several days and allow his surging emotions to settle. With his nascent soul cultivation, he could easily obtain an excellent position and generous treatment within the Taixuan Sect. However, the thought of being sent outside to exterminate demons, fight demonic sects, or become entangled in internal struggles immediately extinguished those distracting ambitions. Only by never forgetting one's original intention could one attain the true result. Nothing was easy. He would rather hide inside Mystic Valley until the very end. He could occasionally search for heavenly treasures, but the focus of his development could never shift away from the valley. A higher position might cause his lifespan to grow faster, but the danger would increase exponentially as well. Besides, he had no enemies. Why rush? Guan turned and walked down the mountain. Nascent soul cultivators could fly directly through the air, but he chose not to. He descended on foot. When he reached the Medicine Valley, Xiaoshuan and the others approached one after another. "Senior brother, you went up the mountain so early?" Yilan greeted him. She did not know whether it was an illusion, but for some reason, senior brother seemed even more handsome today. Guan smiled. "I went to inspect the seeds. Today, you can lead the others through their exercises." Yilan nodded. She wanted to ask more, but Guan had already begun walking toward the pavilion. Not far away, Wu Xin watched Guan's back and thought to himself, "There is unquestionably a secret hidden in these mountains. I will find it." Guan climbed the stairs and pushed open the door. The moment he entered, he saw the white spirit rat collapsed on the table. Its entire body had swollen like a ball, while the azure vine fruit had completely disappeared. It was still breathing. It was not dead. Guan immediately used lifespan inspection on it. White spirit rat, 1st grade, 1220-180. Huh? Its lifespan had increased by 70 years. Originally, the white spirit rat had possessed only 50 years of lifespan. Was the medicinal effect of the azure vine fruit truly that powerful? Guan immediately walked to the wooden cabinet, took out another azure vine fruit, and began eating it.